It all starts in a blacksmith's workshop, where Vil lifts his hammer and uses his golden hand power to connect with divine hammer, Mjolnir. With a bit of magic, he floats an iron bar into place, ready to shape it into a special, holy weapon. As he hits the iron, softly saying a chant, the bar lights up bright and slowly turns into a shining sword called Holy Light Severance. Later on, in the living room of the new house he just built, which doubles as his workshop, and the home he's sharing with his fiancée, Vil gets heartbreaking news. Cyril Hassan, his fiancée, tells him she's decided to call off their engagement. Vil was taken aback and quickly challenged her decision, pointing out that their engagement was set up by their dads. The plan was for him to take over his father's blacksmith shop, while she would run her family's trading business. Then Cyril dropped a surprise. She told him she'd fallen for someone else. As she said this, her eyes drifted toward the door where another man was quietly waiting. The man walks into the room and hugs Cyril right in front of Vil. To his shock, it's his own brother, Sachin. Stunned, Vil asks when this all started. Sachin explains that it began after their father died. Back then, Cyril was upset and Vil was too caught up in work to be there for her. Cyril says that while Vil stayed distant, Sachin was there to comfort and support her when things got tough. Vil tries to explain that he didn't have much choice. He was working non-stop to keep Hassan Trading Company from going under. But Sachin just laughs it off, saying the company only bounced back because a big client showed up at the perfect moment, not because of his hard work. Vil stood there, stunned, unable to believe what he was hearing. Cyril wasn't trying to back him up at all. Instead, she took credit for saving the company, saying it was her own grit that kept things going after her dad passed away. She said she never gave up and fought hard to keep the business afloat. Vil's hands shook with rage. Even if what she said was true, he couldn't wrap his head around how they could turn on him like this, especially after they just finished building a house and opened a new shop together. Sachin sneers and gives a fake apology before telling Vil to get out, saying the house belongs to him and Cyril now. He says it wouldn't be right for her ex to stay there. Vil, burning with anger, asks why they can't just live at Cyril's family estate since the Hassan Company building is her. Sachin shoots back, refusing the idea, saying he's the new head of the house and his pride won't let him settle for anything less. Vil, clearly puzzled, asks what Sachin is talking about. Without hesitation, Sachin rests his hand on Cyril's stomach and declares that she's carrying his baby. Furious, Vil yanks Sachin by the collar, shouting at him to not mess with him. Sachin tells him to relax, warning that he might scare Cyril. Only then does Vil see her holding her stomach. Realizing what's going on, he pushes Sachin aside and heads for the door, saying if this is how it's going to be, they can keep the house and the shop. Just as he's about to walk out, Cyril calls after him to stop. When he asks what she wants, she pleads with him not to give up on the shop, saying the company still needs the weapons he makes. Sachin jumps in, saying he'll handle the smithy from now on. Cyril tries to argue, but Vil's had enough. He opens the door and walks out, saying that from now on, none of it's his problem. As Vil walked away, Sachin just stood there, staring at the door without really seeing it. He couldn't help but remember a talk he had with his dad when he was a kid. Back then, he asked why their father always seemed to pick Vil over him, saying he could run the family blacksmith shop just as well. His dad didn't hesitate to answer. He said Vil was a rare genius, someone the gods had gifted with a golden hand. Meanwhile, he thought both Sachin and himself were pretty mediocre. When Sachin heard that, he burst into tears, shouting at his dad not to underestimate him and asking how he could call his own son mediocre. He had always been jealous of his brother, because their dad trusted him, because he seemed so talented, and because he had a gorgeous fiancée. That jealousy grew into real anger, and it was that anger that pushed him to plot against his brother and try to take everything away from him. Right at that moment, there was a knock on the door. When it swung open, a girl walked in, flanked by knights and clutching a bunch of flowers. She asked if either of them knew where to find Master Hapusai. Seeing her, both Sachin and Cyril froze for a second, then quickly bowed, realizing this was Princess Anarose from the kingdom herself. Anarose quickly says sorry and explains she was actually asking about who owns Hapusai's smithy. She mentioned she heard that Vil started his own smithy and wanted to bring him flowers to celebrate. This leaves Sachin puzzled, wondering why a princess would stop by some ordinary blacksmith's shop and how she even found out about it. Anna Rose approached Cyril, knowing she was the daughter of the boss at Hassan Trading Company and the woman who was supposed to marry Vil. She told Cyril how lucky she was to be tying the knot with such an amazing guy, which left Cyril totally confused. Suchin, clearly annoyed, stepped in to say that Vil and Cyril had broken off their engagement. He also mentioned that Vil had left the shop, and now Suchin was the one running the Hapusai smithy. Anna Rose was caught off guard by the news, but she didn't stay shaken for long. Slowly, everything clicked into place, and a small smile spread across her face. Then she asked if Suchin was the one stepping in to run the smithy. Suchin nodded without hesitation, putting his hand over his heart as he promised to handle the smithy and all its challenges. But Anna Rose quickly spotted that his hand didn't have the usual mark that shows someone's a master at Hapusai. She couldn't help but laugh, thinking it was ridiculous for someone like him to talk so big when his hands showed otherwise. She chuckles as she gets up to leave, telling them she's finished, which leaves Suchin and Cyril puzzled. Once she's outside, she tells a knight to stop all business with the Hassan Trading Company right away. The knight nods and agrees without hesitation. Then she gives another urgent order. She tells everyone to search for Vil using everything they've got, pointing out he couldn't have gone far. One of the knights, unsure, asks why it even matters since Vil's brother is running the family blacksmith now. When Anna Rose hears this, she looks right at the knight and asks if he really knows nothing about Hapusai. Meanwhile, Vil is standing alone by a calm lake, tossing stones across the water as he thinks over everything that's happened. He's decided that no matter what, even if they come begging to him, he won't go back to the capital. Determined, he powers up his golden hand and reaches out to link with the divine hammer, Mjolnir. As the glowing circle on his hand lights up and the hammer hums, a memory from his childhood comes to mind. He remembers asking his sick grandfather about a Hapusai. His grandfather told him that a Hapusai is a blacksmith gifted with the golden hand, a rare blessing passed down through their family. When Vil asked more, the old man explained that the golden hand gives them a special talent for crafting, and every Hapusai ever known has had this gift. As Vil remembers this, he tosses a gold coin up and uses his ultra alchemy skill. Right in the air, he smashes the coin, turning it into a tiny bar of pure gold. That little bar alone could pay for years of travel, but Vil knows it's not smart to make too much or the market could crash. He also thinks back to his grandfather telling him that most people with golden hand powers only get one skill. Vil stood apart from the others because he had 5 unique crafting skills, something no other Hapusai had ever had before. His grandfather gave him a hammer and told him how their family had spent generations perfecting the art of making divine tools. With that, he handed over the special hammer he made, called Mjolnir, and announced that Vil was now the new Hapusai, carrying on the family's sacred legacy. Vil took over his grandfather Genkoji Craft's workshop and the holy artifact he left behind. From that day on, he's been in charge of guarding the city's protective barrier, the hero's sword, and many other sacred treasures, all by the king's command. Meanwhile, in the kingdom, Princess Anna Rose tells a knight that the reason their land stays peaceful is because Hapusai was still around. The knight grew worried when he realized Vil was missing and warned that the barrier might be at risk. The princess calmed him down, saying Vil had just strengthened it and it should hold strong for at least a year. Hearing this, the knight asked if they should tell heroine Caroline about the situation. Anna Rose threw her bouquet aside and said it wasn't the right time yet. She explained that Vil had also taken care of the holy sword recently, so unless a bunch of ancient dragons showed up out of nowhere, things should stay steady. Then she gave a clear command. They needed to find Vil right away to keep the barrier safe and protect the capital. The knights nodded without a second thought and set off to do just that. Anna Rose understands that Caroline looks up to Vil not just for his craftsmanship but also as a person. Now that Vil is single, Anna Rose thinks it's smart to win his heart before someone else does. At the same time, Vil carefully opens the storage box and drops a gold bar inside to save it as travel money. He then shares that the maintenance work he's been doing started with his father after his grandpa died. It was just a way to keep the family fed. But fixing things isn't really what a Hapusai is meant to do, so he thinks Suchin can take care of the shop instead. He learned from his grandfather that the real purpose of a Hapusai is something different. Before giving Vil the divine hammer Mjolnir, he tells him it's more than a tool. It's a symbol meant to guide and motivate him in his journey ahead. Then, he asks Vil to carry out the true mission of the Hapusai, his last hope for the future. Vil started to cry, and his grandfather softly patted his head. In a quiet, fading voice, he told Vil he needed to create special sacred relics and send them up to the heavens. Right after saying this, his grandfather passed away, leaving Vil crying in deep sadness. Thinking back on that moment, Vil understood that his grandfather had been leading him all along. Then, Vil threw a rock into the air and hit it while it was still flying with his divine hammer. the rock changed into an SS rank drifting teleportation crystal. A powerful item that can take someone to a place they've never visited before. He crushed the crystal and called on its power to teleport him. As the magic started working, he thought about how, now that people saw him as a legendary craftsman just like his grandfather, he wanted to travel the world. His plan was to sharpen his skills and find fresh inspiration, all aiming to create a sacred relic that would outshine even Mjolnir. When the teleportation finished, Vil looked around and realized he was somewhere totally new, just like he expected. Out of nowhere, he hears a girl shouting for help. When he turns around, he sees a bear chasing her, coming right toward him. The whole thing catches him by surprise. The girl is scared and yelling for someone to save her. Without thinking twice, Vil swings Mjolnir and hits the bear right on the head, taking it down instantly. Once the threat is gone, he looks around, trying to figure out where he is, maybe somewhere in a forest close to the kingdom. Putting that idea out of his mind, he turns his attention to the girl. As he gets closer to see if she's okay, he's surprised to find she's a beast folk girl missing one leg. When he asks again if she's alright, he spots a collar around her neck. She quickly tries to hide it, but he figures she must be a slave, probably owned by a merchant who was eaten by the bear. Then she quietly says it hurts. When he moves in to check her wound, she suddenly lets out a terrified scream. When he noticed her panic, he quickly stopped and softly told her to stay still. Seeing how scared she was, he chose to help her feel better first. He reached out with his golden hand power, holding the divine hammer near her. At first, she was unsure, but the gentle glow from the hammer started to ease her fear. Once she felt calmer, Vil let her know he wasn't going to hurt her. He lifted his hammer and used a skill called Full Restoration, pressing it softly against the spot where her leg had been missing. She let out a sharp cry as her leg started to grow back, the wounds closing up quickly. In just a few seconds, her leg was completely healed, like it had never been hurt at all. She looked at him in shock and asked what had just happened. Vil told her he used his hammer to trigger one of his skill, which fixed her injured leg. Then he tells her to hold still because he's about to try another trick. She watches him, puzzled, when suddenly he hits the collar with his hammer. The collar lights up brightly and then disappears completely. Vil explains that now she's really free. If she had tried to take it off on her own, her head would have exploded. She felt a shiver go down her back when she heard that. Trying to speak, she noticed Vil looking puzzled. Suddenly, she wrapped her arms around him in a tight hug and told him her name was Poro. She also thanked him for saving her, calling him Big Brother. Vil grinned and said it was no trouble, then told her his name, Vil Craft. As the sky started to darken, he figured it was time to make camp and told her to hang tight. Then he headed over to a nearby tree, which made Poro look at him puzzled. He studied the tree for a bit and finally picked it. With a swing of his hammer, he used his skill to turn the tree into a log cabin. Vil grinned as he watched the tree slowly change its shape until the cabin stood ready. Poro stood there, wide-eyed, completely stunned as the tree suddenly changed into a house. Vil just shrugged and said this would be their home for the night. Meanwhile, over at the edge of the Getnerga kingdom, a group of knights showed up and found the bodies of a bunch of old dragons. They were left scratching their heads, trying to figure out who could have caused such a thing. Right at that moment, one of the knights notices someone standing onto the heap of dragon bodies. He narrows his eyes to get a better look, then his face lights up with surprise as he calls out that it's Lady Caroline Iceberg, the heroine of the Holy Ice Sword. The knights immediately drop to a bow, and one of them asks if she truly took down all those dragons by herself. One of the knights spoke up, saying that Lady Caroline was more than strong enough to pull off such things. He pointed out that the town's shield alone wouldn't have kept them safe, and that her power was truly needed to keep the kingdom peaceful. Then, another knight politely asked if she would come with them to the royal palace. But she ignored the question and just stared quietly at her sword, leaving the knights puzzled. After a moment, she mentioned that her blade looked like it had a chip. The knight started to explain that even a holy sword can wear down over time, but he stopped halfway through when he caught sight of Caroline smiling, a rare and surprising sight from someone usually so calm and cold. She pulled her hood up and, with a quiet sigh, muttered, "This is how things just are," and vanished so fast the knights barely had time to react. Suddenly, she was standing in the heart of the Getnerga kingdom's capital. As she strolled along humming to herself, her sword started to shimmer and then shifted into a glowing spirit cat. The cat teased her, saying she seemed pretty happy today. It flicked its tail against her cheek and asked if it was because she was about to meet her beloved prince who was a skilled smith. She nodded, smiling, knowing that today was finally the day she'd see Vil again. The cat says it cares about Vil just as much. Nobody else looks after it or treats it as gently as he does. Still, the cat grumbles when Vil claimed the sword wouldn't chip unless she fought 100 ancient dragons. So, to prove him wrong, she takes on a whole swarm of dragons, pushing the sword to its breaking point, mostly just so she'd have a reason to see Vil again. The cat thinks Caroline is a lost cause, and she doesn't argue, admitting she's only sticking around because of him. When they get to the shop, she pulls out some magic to make a mirror and checks her face while the cat presses the doorbell. Suchin opens the door, calls her beautiful, and invites her inside. Caroline can't wait to meet Vil, but as soon as she sees Suchin, her excitement disappears. Noticing her chilly expression, Suchin quickly realizes who she is and gives her a proper greeting. She asks where Vil is, and Suchin tells her he's not around. She thought Vil had just stepped out to grab something and said she'd wait for him. But then Suchin told her Vil got fired, and that he's actually the new owner of the shop starting today. When she heard that, her eyes narrowed, and a dark, threatening vibe surrounded her. Suchin started shaking, unsure if it was because of Vil. Meanwhile, Caroline was furious that this guy had kicked Vil out. She pulled out her sword, aimed it at him, and demanded to know where Vil was, since she needed him to fix her holy sword. Suchin thinks Caroline is just frustrated because Vil isn't there to repair her weapon. Seeing a chance, he steps in and says he'll take care of the sword instead. Caroline looks at him, surprised, and asks if he really means that. It turns out that only Caroline and Vil can see the sword's holy spirit, a little cat. Still, the spirit wonders if Suchin might be able to see it too, since he's Vil's brother after all. Suchin steps up with a big dose of confidence, saying he can handle things and even thinks he's way better than his brother. Caroline doesn't buy it at all but hands him the sword anyway, asking if he really believes he can fill Vil's shoes. He just smiles and tells her to trust him, sure that once she sees what he can do, she'll pick him instead. In his mind, Vil only seemed special because he was firstborn, that's it. As he starts working on the sword, he sees this as his chance to take everything Vil cares about. He won't accept that he's not as capable as his brother. Thinking nothing of it, he starts sharpening the sword without much care. The spirit cat inside feels a sharp pain but stays hidden, so he keeps grinding the blade hard. The cat's anger builds, trying to make him stop, but he doesn't notice. Finally, the sword spirit can't take it anymore and releases a fierce, deadly energy, its face twisting into something scary. Suchin gets scared, feeling like his arm might break from the force. Right at that moment, Caroline steps in, reaches out, and the sword suddenly flies right into her hand. She couldn't believe how quickly he made the sword upset. The spirit cat explained that Suchin wasn't paying attention to what the sword was trying to say at all. He was just goofing off, doing whatever he wanted. That's totally different from his brother, who knows that even tools have feelings and has always handled them gently. When Caroline said this, Suchin looked puzzled and asked what kind of nonsense she was talking about, insisting that swords don't get angry. The spirit cat just shook its head and decided this guy was a lost cause. Caroline said the holy sword has its own mind, and Vil was the only one who ever kept it in perfect shape. Now that he's gone, she's decided she won't be coming back to the shop. Before she walks out, she looks Suchin in the eye and tells him that both she and the sword can see right through what he's doing. She makes it clear that he's nothing like his brother. When she starts to leave, Suchin tries to get her to stay, but she just keeps walking. Right then, Cyril came back to the shop and saw Caroline walking out. She was puzzled to see her there. Suddenly, Suchin shouted from behind, begging for one more chance. Then he dropped to the floor, claiming he was better than his brother. This left Cyril even more confused. But when she looked around and saw the mess everywhere, her surprise turned into shock. She turned to Suchin and asked what on earth had gone down. Suchin's voice trembles as he tells her he somehow upset Lady Caroline, who swore she'd never come back to the shop. He tries to calm her down by saying that even if Lady Caroline's gone, there'll still be other customers. But Cyril gets even more annoyed and snaps at him, asking if he's lost his mind. She points out that if Lady Caroline hates them, it's like the whole kingdom hates them, and that means they're done for. Feeling overwhelmed, Suchin yells at her to be quiet. She snaps back at him to quit yelling and just get the mess sorted out fast. Right then, a man walks in and calls Cyril president, saying the royal family has pulled their order. Still caught up in the fight, she blurts out that she already knows and tells the guy to go. But the room goes quiet as she and Suchin stop what they're doing and look at each other, confused. Then they both ask at the same time who canceled the orders. Out in the jungle, at the treehouse Vil put together, Poro couldn't believe what she saw. The place had a hot bath, tasty food, cozy clothes, and a really soft bed. She was so amazed that she asked Vil if he was some kind of wizard. Vil just laughed and said no. He explained that he used one of his skills to keep the house safe, and then he used his top-notch alchemy to make the food right from the ingredients. Poro is really impressed by what he can do, and tells him how awesome he is. Vil feels deeply moved by the praise. He's been pushing himself hard lately, so it feels nice to be recognized at last. He even remembers how Cyril tricked him into thinking it was normal for a blacksmith to make 9,999 A-grade swords every single day. But forgetting all that, Poro says she thinks he's a genuinely good person. That catches him completely off guard. Looking back, he remembers his grandfather as a brilliant mind, who kept coming up with amazing inventions. His dad might not have been as gifted, but he worked hard, paid attention to details, and was always ready to lend a hand. Vil feels those two were the real geniuses. As for himself, he sees just a regular blacksmith who picked up some skills and just wants to bring a bit of happiness to others. When he glances up, he notices Poro has already dozed off. Feeling a bit awkward, he quietly wonders how she managed to doze off right there on him. But deep down, he's happy she feels safe enough to relax. She must have been really worn out to fall asleep that fast. With a gentle smile, he chooses to close his eyes too. And just like that, the two of them drift off together in the middle of this wild, risky jungle. Vil woke up and stretched, saying good morning to Poro like usual. When she didn't answer, he figured she was still asleep. He got up and went over to her bed to wake her, but froze when he saw someone else lying there. It was a girl he didn't know, older and really pretty. He blinked, trying to make sense of who she could be. Suddenly, he spots the ears and tail and a crazy idea pops into his head. Before he can figure it out, the girl blinks awake and happily says good morning, calling him big brother just like Poro always does. Vil's stunned. It hits him that this girl is actually Poro. Without wasting a second, he asks her how she could have changed so much. Poro glanced at herself and said it felt like she had changed a lot. A little while later, when they stepped out of the treehouse, Vil told her to slow down because she was walking too quickly. She paused and smiled, thanking him for the clothes he had made, mentioning how easy and comfy they were to wear. Vil, curious, asked what she meant by evolution. Poro told him that when a monster gathers enough mana, it can change into a stronger kind. Because she has monster blood as a beast folk, she can evolve too. It turns out the food he cooked last night was packed with mana, and that's what set off her transformation. Putting that aside, Vil asks if she's going to keep tagging along. She turns it around, asking if she's annoying him. He's quick to say no, and she brightens up, mentioning she doesn't really have anywhere else to be. With a little shy smile, she admits she wants to stick close to him. Seeing her like this, Vil notices it's not just how she looks that's different. Then, out of the blue, she leans in and quietly suggests they could have some kittens together, which totally surprises him. Feeling flustered, he takes off running, yelling that he's not ready to be a dad. Poro hurries after him, telling him to slow down. Suddenly, he stops when his feet sink into water, leaving both of them puzzled. There's supposed to be a village here, but all they see is water, almost like a swamp. As they look around, Vil notices a sign ahead that says Dead End, and the name gives him a weird, uneasy feeling. They followed the sign deeper into the swamp until they came to a lake. Vil couldn't help but wonder what had happened to the village. Right then, Poro spotted some people nearby and thought they should ask them. When they got closer, a man stepped forward and said he was the village chief, Arthur. He told them that Dead End Village was flooded because of the heavy rains a few days ago. The villagers have no place to run and are stuck waiting for the flood to go down. Things are tough because all the young folks have left, so there's no one around to pitch in with the cleanup. Even if some were still there, the flood waters are just too high to handle. When Vil hears what's happening, he decides to step in and lend a hand. Without saying much, he heads off toward the forest. Poro calls after him, asking where he's going. Vil climbs up to a higher spot to get a better look around. When Poro asks if something's wrong, Vil says it's exactly what he thought. The mountains surround the village, creating a natural basin. This is why the village floods so often, but he's convinced he can fix it. Knowing exactly what to do, he picks up his hammer and uses the golden arm power, telling Mjolnir to get bigger. Right away, the hammer starts to grow huge, surprising everyone around. Vil gathered all his might and slammed the hammer down hard, sending a strong shockwave through the ground. Dust kicked up everywhere as a huge hole opened up beneath the blow. Then, he made the hammer a bit smaller and hit the crater's edge with it. The cracks spread quickly, and water from the village poured in, filling the hole and creating a giant reservoir. The villagers and Poro stood there stunned, watching the water rush out of their homes and into the new lake. In no time, the whole village dries up, but the people are heartbroken when they see all the damage the flood caused. Vil stays calm and tells them that wooden houses, especially the older ones, don't hold up well after being soaked for a long time. Then he pulls out a box and suddenly, dozens of stones start floating in the air. The village chief, puzzled, asks what he's going to do with them. Vil doesn't say a word. Instead, he powers up his golden hand, smashes the ground, and uses his full restoration and creation powers to get to work. Right away, the broken wooden buildings start fixing themselves, and the stones hanging in the air turn into bricks that stack up neatly into strong new walls. Before anyone knows it, the whole village is rebuilt, looking tougher and better than before. Everyone cheers and hurries inside to check out the changes. Seeing the amazing work, the village chief wonders if Vil might be some kind of powerful mage. Shortly after, Vil and Poro were welcomed into the chief's house. Everyone in the village bowed to thank them, but Vil waved it off, saying it was nothing since the golden hand made the job simple. Still, the chief was determined to offer something in return, explaining they wouldn't feel right otherwise. Not sure what to ask for, Vil finally wondered if the village had any rare or special weapons or tools. The villagers looked confused but still took him to a small shrine where a sword was locked away. Vil felt a dark, unsettling presence from the sword and knew right away it was no ordinary blade. It was a demonic weapon. The village chief told him that ages ago, a hero had wielded that very sword to defeat an evil god and protect the village. But after that victory, the hero lost his mind. Worried about the sword's dangerous power, their ancestors had hidden it away in the shrine to keep everyone safe. Vil picked up the sword and said he never thought something so deadly would be tucked away here. The chief looked worried and asked if he was okay, mentioning that just touching the sword was too much for them. Vil told him not to worry and asked Poro to stay outside with the chief. But Poro shook her head, saying she couldn't keep him safe if she wasn't right there. Understanding this, Vil chooses to wrap things up fast and pulls out his hammer. The village chief tries to warn him that the sword is a very strong weapon, but Vil stays cool. He uses his decomposition power and hits the sword with his hammer. Right away, the bead-like seal breaks apart. The chief is left stunned as Vil swiftly draws the old, rusty sword stained with blood. Cradling the sword gently, he talks to it softly, saying it must have hurt to be left behind, locked away, and forgotten beneath rust and dried blood for such a long time. The village chief, puzzled, asks who he's speaking to. Vil just smiles and says that if you try to see things through the sword's eyes, you can hear what it's trying to say. Out of nowhere, a dark, shadowy mist starts oozing from the sword. Poro panics and tries to get to Vil, but the village chief stops her, telling her to stay back. At the same time, Vil feels something bad stirring inside the sword, and realizes it's cursed to make whoever holds it lose their mind. The dark mist shapes into a scary spirit that sends a chill down his spine. Shocked, he wonders what on earth is going on. But only Vil seems to see the spirit. Poro looks around, confused, not understanding what's happening. The village chief stays calm and asks Vil if he can see the spirit in the sword. Then the chief explains to Poro that some people can see these sword spirits, and this one's a demon trapped inside. Vil thinks the curse on the sword is nothing but pure evil, because tools are supposed to help the person using them. But this sword does the opposite. It pushes away anyone who tries to hold it. The village chief tells Vil he should just get rid of it, since it's getting too risky. Still, Vil won't hear of it. He feels sorry for the sword, seeing it as something lonely and misunderstood, locked away and feared because people believe it causes madness. He still hears the sword's desperate cry for help ringing in his mind. So, he uses his golden hand power and says he's a blacksmith, whose job is to fix broken tools. He promises to repair the sword and decides to call it Yahello. Then, with his special skill turned on, he starts hammering the blade, and a bright beam of energy shoots up into the sky. Back in the Getanigra Kingdom's capital, Caroline was still looking for Vil but hadn't found any clues. Suddenly, the sword spirit next to her snapped to attention. Caroline spotted the change and asked what was going on, calling the spirit Cory. Cory fixed its gaze on a faraway pillar of light and said a new holy sword had just come into being. Back in the Dead End village, just as Vil finishes hammering, the cursed sword starts to glow and shifts shape, turning into a smooth, sharp katana. At the same time, the sword spirit, now called Yahello, changes too, appearing as a woman dressed like a shrine maiden. When Vil goes to grab the katana, Yahello speaks up, first calling him Master Blacksmith but quickly switching to Creator. Vil softly asks if she still feels any pain, and Izora smiles, telling him she doesn't. She then tells him who she is, the spirit of the Holy Sword of Darkness, and thanks him for naming her Yozora. Vil was stunned when he found out she was actually a holy sword. Yozora told him that because of his actions, she transformed from a demonic sword into a holy one. The village chief still looked puzzled, not able to see Yozora at all. But Poro could see her perfectly and quietly said how beautiful she looked. Yozora blinked in surprise and looked at Poro, asking if she really could see her. Then, out of nowhere, Vil threw the katana to Poro, catching her off guard. Poro almost dropped it but caught the sword just in time. She looked shocked and asked if only heroes were meant to use holy swords. Before she could say more, her eyes went wide as something inside her woke up. Without thinking, she pulled the katana from its sheath and started moving through a series of sword moves with smooth skill and sharp focus. As soon as she puts the sword away, she shakes off the daze, feeling like the katana moved on its own. Vil tells her the sword belongs to her now, since everything happened because of the idea she gave him that morning. She's surprised and asks if that's true. Vil nods and says he poured his energy into the holy sword, helping it grow just like she did. Yozora, who's now fully awake as the sword spirit, is stunned to learn that even weapons can change and grow. She thinks Vil is pretty amazing for making it happen. Vil shared a story his grandfather told him about blacksmiths in the Far East, who carve their names into the swords they make. When Vil gave his katana a name, he poured the power of the golden hand into it, turning it into a sacred sword. The village chief was stunned to hear this because holy swords usually only appear when a god's messenger comes down. For a regular person to create one like this was something no one had ever seen before. When Vil thinks about it, he remembers how his grandfather always wished he had made a holy sword himself. Vil feels mixed emotions. He's proud but also a bit weighed down because he didn't build this sword from the ground up. He just finished work that someone else started. But seeing Yozora's happiness makes it all worth it. For now, he just hopes that someday he'll get the chance to craft a sacred weapon all by himself. Far away, Caroline's sword spirit, Cori, spots a bright beam of mana shining from a brand new holy sword. She's shocked. The light didn't come down from the heaven like usual, it was born in this world. That can only mean one thing. A human made that holy sword. Caroline was surprised too, but she quickly figured out what was going on. She began to laugh, leaving Cori puzzled. When he asked why she was laughing, Caroline wondered if the spirit still hadn't caught on. Cori, taken aback by her reaction, asked in disbelief if it was Vil. Caroline agrees, saying this will finally prove his talent to everyone. But then her face turns serious as a thought hits her. Without wasting a second, she leaps down from the high spot and tells Cori to find the new holy sword right away. Not long after, Vil and Poro hop into a carriage and head out of the village. While Poro took the wheel, Vil studied the map and found out that Dead End Village was right at the border of the kingdom. He figured they should make their way to the Empire of Madoka, somewhere he wouldn't be recognized easily. Poro then said how happy she was that they got the carriage, and Vil told her the villagers had given it to him as a thank you, so he couldn't say no. He then hands her the sacred sword of darkness, saying he's trusting her with it. She's taken aback and asks if he really expects her to use it. He nods, saying it's just right for her. Then he asks her to look after Yozora and use her to keep others safe. Sitting up on the carriage, Yozora comments on how wonderful the breeze feels. It makes her feel alive. To show her thanks, she decides to teach Poro how to fight with a sword. Poro couldn't believe it when she heard she was going to learn how to fight with a sword. Just then, the wind picked up suddenly, and they noticed something coming straight at them through the air. It was a dragon, and before they knew it, it had landed right in front of them. Vil's eyes went wide. He knew that green dragon all too well. But before they could react, the dragon was airborne again, and Vil knew it was gearing up to strike from above. Instead of feeling scared, he's actually intrigued. The dragon's scales look like they'd make great armor. When Yozora hears this, she points out that her creator seems to think of the monster just as raw material. She then says they should let her handle the dragon, it'll be good practice for Poro. Poro is shocked and asks if she really means fighting it for real. Vil nods, thinking it's a smart plan since he's curious about Yozora's abilities too. As the dragon twists through the sky and swoops down to strike, Yozora tells Poro to brace herself. Together, they jump toward the beast just as it starts gathering flames in its mouth, preparing to blast them with fire. Down below, Vil watches closely while Poro nervously pulls out her sword. Her eyes shut tight, she swings at the dragon's neck, sure she's hit it hard. She yells out to Vil to check it out, but then she sees the cut isn't deep. Things get worse when the dragon spins back around and lunges, fire roaring from its mouth. Hovering in the air thanks to Yazora's power, fear creeps in, and she feels completely lost about what to do next. Yazora softly tells her to relax and takes her hands, helping her hold the sword. She says to believe in the blade, and it will link to her heart. Then Yazora asks her to open her eyes and pay attention, reminding her that even when things feel dark and hopeless, she has to hold on to that small spark of hope. After hearing Yazora's advice, Paro opens her eyes and spots the perfect moment to attack. Yazora promises to stay close, just as the dragon blows fire their way. Without hesitation, Paro rushes right through the flames and with a sharp, powerful swing, cuts off the dragon's head. They both fall to the ground, but Paro lands without a scratch. Paro couldn't help but run over to Vil, grinning from ear to ear, yelling that she finally pulled it off. Vil just smiled back and said she did great. Then Yazora stepped in, reminding everyone that Paro barely tapped into even a tiny bit of her real power and still couldn't take down the dragon in one hit. That made Paro's smile disappear as she understood that, even with Yazora's help, she was still just starting out with the sword. Vil gently ruffled her hair, mentioning that it wasn't too shabby for her very first fight. Then he looked over at Yazora, curious about what she thought. She just gave a quiet nod, which made Paro smile brightly again. Meanwhile, far away in the thick jungle, Cory told Caroline to take it easy and not hurry so much. But Caroline wasn't convinced. She said one holy sword alone could be strong enough to topple a whole country. If other countries find out about Vil, she wonders what they expect will happen next. Cory is taken aback, suddenly seeing how their greed might spark a war over Vil. So, before anyone else gets wind of what Vil can do, Caroline decides she's going to ask him to marry her first. Cory can't believe what he's hearing and asks if she's really serious, and if she is, why she's choosing this moment. Caroline, clearly flustered, tells Cory that once people find out Vil is a divine blacksmith who can forge a holy sword, women from everywhere will start chasing after him non-stop. She's determined to prevent that from happening and quickly asks how close they are to the holy sword. Cory answers that it's near a small village at the kingdom's edge, but it's dangerously close to the Maduka Empire's border. Hearing this, Caroline suddenly freezes, shocked, because the Maduka Empire is known as the Heroes of Empire. Suddenly Vil and the others jump when they hear thunder rumbling nearby. They glance up and spot dark clouds gathering, flashing with lightning. Before Paro can even ask what's going on, a huge bolt crashes down right in front of them, lighting up everything with a bright flash. Seeing this, Vil's mind races. He starts to think he knows who's behind it, and wonders if it could really be her. As the dust settled, a girl with dark skin stepped forward, wearing an eye patch and gripping a whip. Lightning crackled all around her as she called out to Vil, calling him her master and saying she had finally found him. She added that it had been a long time, while calling him Master Vil. Paro, confused and worried, asked who she was and why she was calling Vil her master. Without warning, the girl appeared right behind Paro, sneering that she didn't think some beast girl like Paro could really protect her master. Just as she gets ready to launch her attack and taunts Paro, asking if she can handle it, Paro suddenly swings back. Vil yells for them to stop, but before the girl with the eye patch can even land a blow, Paro strikes first. To her surprise, the girl catches the attack effortlessly with her whip. Paro freezes, shocked by how strong the whip is. It's so tough that her sword shakes when it hits. She wonders what kind of weapon it could be. The girl with the eye patch grins and asks if Paro really thinks it's only a whip. Then, as she swings it, the whip sparks with lightning, and she shows that it's actually her partner, a sacred sword called Thunderthorn, made of lightning. Paro is stunned to find out it's a holy sword too. Caroline stayed still, frozen in place, when Cory told her that the lightning sword had hit Vil. He went on to say there are just 6 holy swords out there, each one held by a woman called a battle maiden. Caroline jumped in, saying that the girl with the eye patch is one of those maidens. Her name is Lakia, the lightning heroine who fights with the powerful Thunderthorn. The moment Caroline spots Vil, she takes off running, yelling that if that sneaky tramp even thinks about charming Vil, she'll make her pay. Cory, looking worried, tells her to move faster. Meanwhile, Lakia is locked in a fight with Paro. She wraps her whip tightly around Paro's leg and holds on tight, laughing as she says she's got her hooked like a fish. Paro tried hard to get her leg loose and swung her whip, but it was too tough to break. Lakia laughed at her, pointing out that even with a holy sword, Paro couldn't cut through a whip. Then Lakia let the whip go from Paro's leg, saying she didn't usually mess with kids. Without wasting time, she started sparking lightning from the whip and threw it at Poro, telling her to leave this to the grown-ups. Right when the lightning was about to hit Poro, who was hanging helplessly in the air, Vil stepped in just in time with his skill, Almighty Refinement, Air Shield. The lightning bounced off the shield and hit a nearby mountain instead, blowing it apart and leaving Yozora stunned. After that, Vil carefully caught Poro as she came down. He said sorry, admitting he shouldn't have left her to deal with such a tough enemy all by herself. Lakia snapped her whip on the ground and said Poro was too weak, so she couldn't accept her as Vil's wife. Vil tried to explain that Poro wasn't like that, but Lakia reminded him of their deal. If she won, he promised to marry her. Poro was stunned, and Vil just sighed, asking if Lakia always had to joke like that. Lakia answers with a serious voice, asking if she seems like she's joking. Then she starts twirling her whip through the air, saying she's going to beat him today. As she does this, the sky grows darker and the lightning flashes more fiercely. Watching all this, Yozora knows things are getting serious. Lakia isn't messing around. Lakia warned Vil to get ready because she was about to show him her strongest move, the Draconic Thunderstorm. Suddenly, the thunder shaped itself into a giant dragon and rushed toward them. Yozora worried that if it hit, everything would burn to nothing. But Vil stayed cool and said, since he had no other option, he wasn't going to hold back either. Vil hurled his magical hammer straight at the thunder dragon, unleashing his full power with his skill called Almighty Destruction. The hammer pierced right through the dragon without any trouble, tearing it apart, and then curved back to land smoothly in Vil's hand. Lakia was stunned. She never thought he could handle a hero's attack that easily. Once again, she couldn't help but be amazed by him. Once things settled down, Poro turned to Vil and asked who Lakia was. Before Poro could get the whole question out, Vil jumped in, saying Lakia comes from the Empire, is known as the heroine of lightning, and has something called the Evil Eye. When Poro wanted to know more about the Evil Eye, Vil started to explain that when Lakia was a kid, she went through some kind of disaster. She had a terrible curse, the god of death's eye, so anything alive looked at by her right eye would die. This curse was a disaster for the Empire. They tried everything to fix her, but nothing worked. With no other choice, they decided to put her to death. But right before that could happen, they found out she also carried a sacred sword. Not wanting to lose someone so important, the Empire put off the execution. They kept searching for someone who could break the curse, and finally, they found a man. Back then, he couldn't get rid of the evil eye. It was beyond what he could handle. All he managed to do was trap it using a magical seal. She tells the story of why she's here now. She can't live like she has been, stuck in that dungeon for way too long. So she came to the man who once saved her, the only person she believes can help, and the one she truly loves. But she doesn't want to stay protected and weak. She wants to grow stronger, strong enough to stand up to him someday. The second the holy sword came into being, she was sure it was because of him. Without wasting a moment, she rushed over here. Thinking back to how he made the sword, he suddenly gets an idea and walks up to her. She calls his name, puzzled, and he tells her to take off the seal from her eye. Lakia is stunned by the request, and Poro gets worried, saying he could die. Meanwhile, Yozora asks what he's trying to do. He didn't pay attention to the others and turned to Lakia, asking if she trusted him with her life. Without hesitation, Lakia said she did. Her life had belonged to him ever since he took her hand, and she gave it to him completely. She then reached up to lift the seal, the eye patch, but it was tough for her. Vil gently stopped her, telling her it was okay, and quickly took it off himself. When the cursed eye comes into view, showing a dark magic circle, he quickly spots lots of weaknesses in it. Without hesitation, he fires up his golden arm power. Then, using his special skill called Almighty Refinement, he strikes the magic circle with heavy blows. The whole thing shakes the air with shock waves and sends dust flying everywhere. But by the time it's done, Lakia's cursed eye is totally calm and under control. There's no dark aura or anything strange happening. She's just looking straight at Vil, her eyes wide open and clear. Then, she blinks and quickly turns away, worried, asking if he's okay. He answers that he's alive and well. That's when she notices her eye has fully healed. Poro stayed alert when Lakia's right eye started glowing. Nothing happened right away, so Yozora wondered if her eye had turned into some kind of divine relic. Vil nodded and said yes, pointing out that just like Yozora had once been a demonic sword, Lakia's eye was a cursed item too. He had used the same idea with her. Just like with the demonic sword, the way to fix her eye was hidden inside it the whole time. The curse was tricky, but he managed to break it down and fix what was missing, bringing the eye back to life. When Lakia heard this, she hurried over to Vil, called him her love, and begged him to use another ultimate move on her. He was surprised and asked if she seriously wanted that again. Without hesitation, she climbed onto him, and he laughed, telling her she was going overboard. A drop of water lands on his cheek, and when he looks up, he sees her tears streaming down, but they're tears of happiness. She tells him how incredible he is for breaking her curse and thanks him from the heart. He tells her she's gotten stronger, and as soon as he admits it, she blurts out that he should marry her. He just shakes his head and says no. Meanwhile, far away in the Gatianerga kingdom, inside the Hapusai shop, Suchin presses a creepy-looking seal onto an old, rusty sword. The seal leaves a mark that looks just like the magical circle in Lakia's demon eye. The mark starts to glow, and slowly the sword changes, turning from a battered old thing into a shiny, top-quality weapon. With a wicked grin, Suchin can't help but admire how amazing the seal is. Now he's able to create as many fake tools as he wants. Then he looks over at someone standing by the shop door and says thanks. The person just shrugs it off, saying no need to thank me, but make sure you put that cursed false seal to good use. Meanwhile, back with Vil, Lakia tells him that if she beats him now, he'll belong to her. With her new divine eye, she's sure he won't be able to help but fall for her. So, she suddenly jumps at him, using her power to freeze him in place. But he quickly dodges, and she ends up tumbling right onto Poro, who's now stuck and can't move. She was stunned and wondered why it only affected her and not him. Vil explained that it wouldn't affect him because he was the one who made it. Since he was the creator, he didn't want to be hurt by his own invention. So when he perfected it, he made sure he was protected, like a built-in safety feature. Poro speaks highly of Vil, but Lakia, feeling upset, pulls at her hair because this was her one shot to win him over. After a while, they reach the Empire of Madoka. Inside the carriage, Lakia rests against Vil and tells him that even if this isn't the way she imagined announcing their marriage, she still wants the Empress to know that he healed her eye. When he heard that, he asked how the Queen was doing. Poro, who was steering the carriage, told him he'd find out soon enough because they had just reached the imperial capital, Carter. The city was surrounded by a huge dome that acted like a shield. Every time Vil saw it, he was amazed by how it stretched out across the sky like something out of a dream. Poro asks what Vil means, and Vil points out the barrier, asking if they don't notice it stretching over the whole town. Yuzora jumps in to explain that the barrier is what keeps the city safe. Usually, people can't see it, but since Poro can, it means his skills as a craftsman have gotten a lot better. Vil suddenly notices how much clearer his senses have become. He's done some work on the barrier device back in the kingdom before, but this is the first time he's actually gotten a good look at the barrier itself. After that, Lakia leads him to the Imperial Palace, where an elderly woman is resting on her throne. Lakia calls Her Majesty and tells her that she's back. Poro was taken aback to find out that the Empire's leader was a woman. Lakia told him that what really matters in their empire is strength, not whether someone is a man or a woman. She went on to say that when the empire was in serious trouble, their queen Artemis took charge of her own army and defended the country, winning everyone's respect. Empress Artemis smiled at Vil and said it had been ages since they last met. Vil bowed and replied that it seemed like forever had gone by. Poro was surprised and asked if they were familiar with each other. Lakia then told him that Empress Artemis was the one who originally asked Vil to break her curse. Artemis spoke softly, thanking Vil for helping Lakia again and apologizing because she wasn't feeling well. Poro noticed and asked if she was sick. Lakia nodded and said her lungs were badly damaged, which made her cough a lot. She added that even with the Empire's top medical care, nothing could fix her lungs. Artemis mentions she doesn't have much time left, but Vil refuses to believe it. He's sure she's strong and will get better. She quietly shakes her head, saying it's just how things are. Her body is failing her, and even the doctors agree there's not much time left. Still, she feels calm knowing she got to thank him before everything ends. Vil then says he has something to ask. She tells him to go ahead and say it since he's the one who saved the whole empire. Taking her okay as a sign, he asks if he can heal her injured body, which takes her completely by surprise. She explains to him that every healer they've seen, even the saints, couldn't make her better. Then she points out that he's a blacksmith, so he should know there's a big difference between fixing things and helping people. Vil agrees, saying he can mend wounds and replace broken parts, but when it comes to sickness, that's something he just can't do. Instead of saying her body was sick, she said it felt like it was falling apart. So he asked if he could try to fix her broken body. Lakia said yes, telling Artemis that Vil was amazing, almost godlike, so it was worth a shot. In the end, she agreed and put her faith in him, especially since he had helped her before. Vil asked if he could help, and when she agreed, he powered up his golden arm and used his healing skill. Then he tapped her chest with his hammer. Right away, she started to glow and lifted off the ground. Soon, a bright, shining light surrounded her, wrapping her up like a glowing ball. Lakia and Poro stood there, wide-eyed, amazed as the light glowed with all 7 colors mixed together. Just then, a man stormed into the room, hurrying to tell the Empress something urgent. But when he saw what was happening, he grabbed the sword and demanded to find out what they had done to Her Majesty. Lakia quickly turns to the man and calls him General Adrak. She tells him that these people are guests of the Empress, who is currently receiving treatment. When she asks what's going on, Adrak says the barrier device has broken down. Even worse, swarms of demonic insects are rushing toward the imperial capital. The news hits her hard, while Vil watches everything quietly. They all move out onto the balcony and spot a huge swarm of insect-like monsters coming their way. Luckily, everyone has already been moved inside the imperial palace, but even so, the palace isn't strong enough to hold back so many attackers, making the whole situation feel like a bad nightmare. Lakia quickly tells Adrak to help get the people to safety while she takes on the monsters herself. But he stops her, saying she can't because the demon insects have already started attacking through a broken barrier. She tells him to fix the barrier, but he answers that the engineers who know how to do that are currently away from the Empire. Things looked pretty hopeless, so Vil decided to take matters into his own hands. He stepped forward and said he'd fix the barrier himself. Heading to the balcony's edge, Adrak called out, trying to stop him and asking what he was up to. Then Vil powered up his golden arm, and the bright light made Adrak step back, caught off guard. As Vil studied the barrier, he spotted a magic circle right in the middle, one that reminded him of the same symbol he'd seen in Lakia's cursed eye. Right as he jumps toward the circle, the barrier starts to fall apart. One of the insect monsters nearly gets through, with more right behind it. But before any of them can get inside, Vil smashes the barrier with a powerful strike. It shines brightly and heals completely, surprising everyone. Vil then lands on the ground, sure that the bright barrier will keep the bugs at bay, and sure enough, things went exactly how he expected. The bug creatures started disappearing, and Adrak just stood there, shocked. Vil then told him he had improved the barrier so it could keep itself going and would destroy any monster that touched it. He also said the part he fixed seemed to be broken from the inside. When Adrak heard that, he acted weird, saying Vil was lying and that nobody could really see the barrier anyway. Vil just keeps talking, acting like he doesn't even hear him. He says if the barrier was falling apart on its own, it wouldn't totally collapse, so someone had to mess with it on purpose. Then he notices Adrak sweating a lot, which seems strange since Vil never actually called him out. Right then, a voice from the palace hallway cuts in, calling out how shameless they are. Everyone spins around when they hear the voice, and to their shock, it's Artemis. She looks so young that no one, not even Vil, realizes who she is right away. When Adrak spots the crown on her head, he immediately wants to know where the Empress is. Artemis stays cool and asks if he still hasn't put 2 and 2 together. She announces that she is the Empress, Artemis, the leader of the Empire. Poro and Lakia are completely stunned, and Vil looks just as puzzled. Then one of the knights asks what happened to her body. Artemis says that Vil fixed her body, and she thinks the youthfulness is a side effect of that repair. When Vil hears this, it hits him that her cells didn't simply heal, they were mostly swapped out for brand new ones. The people watching this change couldn't believe their eyes and started shouting, "Long live Queen Artemis." She quickly told the knights to grab General Adrak and lock him up in the dungeon. But just as they stepped forward, Adrak pushed them aside, tore open his armor, and showed a bunch of explosives strapped to himself. He yelled out, calling on the 7 powers to rise. Just as the blast was about to happen, Artemis jumped in and kicked him hard, sending him flying through the air. Standing firm, Artemis warned that anyone threatening the Empire would face her ruthless wrath. Then, before he could do anything else, he blew up in midair, coming to a sudden end. The crowd bursts into cheers, shouting praise for Artemis. With everything settled, Artemis looks at Vil and asks how she can thank him for his help. Vil smiles softly and says that just seeing her smile is all the thanks he needs. Artemis returns the smile, feeling a little shy as her cheeks turn pink. As they watched, Poro said she must be really popular. Lakia agreed and added that Artemis still hadn't gotten married. Poro was surprised and asked if that meant Artemis was their rival as well. Lakia said yes, they'd have to deal with her together, and Poro nodded, ready for the challenge. Putting that aside for a moment, Vil starts thinking over what Adrax said at the end. What exactly were the 7 powers, and who did they refer to? Meanwhile, in the heart of the Jurtanurga kingdom's capital, inside the Hasan Company building, Sirikul is boiling with anger. Ever since the royal family turned their back on her, the nobles have done the same. Things are looking really bad for her business. Losing just one more big client could be the end of it. She's lost in her worries when a knock comes at the door. Annoyed, she calls out, wanting to know who's interrupting her. When the door swings open, she freezes. It's the guild master standing right there, catching her completely off guard. Sirikul hurriedly says sorry for how she acted before, still curious about why such a top-level adventurer would drop by now. The guild master brushes it off, telling her it's no problem and thanks her sincerely for the amazing sword she bought recently. That's when Sirikul remembers it was made by Vil and feels proud, saying it's a pleasure to help out. The guild master went on to say she liked the sword so much that she wanted to get 50 more for the guild. With a quick wave of her hand, she magically called up a crate full of swords and kicked it open, grabbing one to look at. Sirikul smiled wide, proud, and said they put everything they had into making those swords, then asked if it was what she hoped for. The guild leader held the sword up, admiring how nice it looked, but then mentioned that it didn't feel quite as sharp as she expected. She flings the sword up into the air and quickly pulls out her own blade, one made by Vil. Just as the sword is coming down, she slices right through it, cutting it clean in two. Sirikul lets out a shocked gasp and drops to the floor. The broken sword falls beside her, and a dark mist leaks out from the pieces, showing that it's actually a rusty, cheap fake. The guild master narrows her eyes and says that even though it looks like a top-tier weapon, it's nothing but a fraud. Sirikul can't believe what she's hearing. The guild master looked serious and said that this careless mistake put her team in danger, and now she was going to take the Hasan Company to court for fraud. Sirikul was shocked and started crying, grabbing onto the guildmaster's leg, pleading for forgiveness and saying that a lawsuit would ruin them. She promised it would never happen again. Even though the guildmaster hadn't expected things to get this bad, she realized the Hasan Company's fate was sealed. As the guildmaster starts to walk away, she tells Sirikul they'll meet again in court. Sirikul rushes after her, begging her to hold on. Meanwhile, over at the Hapasai smithy, Sachin keeps hammering away at the fake swords. He thinks it's pretty handy how just slapping a fake seal on a cheap blade can make it seem worth a lot more. He thinks he can grab some cheap, worthless swords, stamp them with a fancy seal, and then sell them for big money. But before he can get too caught up in that idea, Sirikul bursts into the room, tossing a broken sword on the floor and demanding to know what's going on. Surprised, Sachin asks what she means, then realizes the sword she threw is actually one he made. When she hears him mumbling to himself, Sirikul wonders if all the swords he's been crafting are just cheap fakes. She tells him that his foolishness has landed them in hot water with the whole Adventurers Guild suing them. Sachin tries to brush it off, saying they can just sell more stuff and make even bigger profits. He goes on about how these days, people care more about looks than how good something really is. That makes Sirikul so angry she asks if he's gone completely crazy. She wonders if he doesn't care about quality at all as long as the product sells, and says what he's doing is an insult to every blacksmith out there. Trying to make him see reason, she warns that if they keep cutting corners, their customers will leave for good. Shocked, she asks if he's lost his mind. Then she throws down a challenge. If he really thinks he's better than Vil, all he has to do is make one perfect A-grade sword. Just one. When he pauses and doesn't answer, Sirikul suddenly understands the truth. He just can't do it. No matter how much he's said, there's nothing to back it up. And because of that, they're on the edge of losing it all. Right then, she finally notices what she'd missed the whole time. Vil was the soul of the Hasan Company. It was his talent that kept everything running and his skill that made their products popular. When she brought up Vil's name, he got annoyed and snapped, asking if she really wanted him to depend on that guy again. Right before he started bragging that he was better than Vil, he looked down at the seal in his hand and, full of confidence, said that with it, he could turn trash into valuable treasures. Seeing him behave like this, Sirikul suddenly realizes just how foolish she's been, trusting fake things that mean nothing. A clear picture of Vil pops into her head, and she wonders how she ever missed the truth. As she starts to walk away, Sachin grabs her hand, trying to hold her back, but she quickly pulls away and tells him she's had enough. Looking straight at him, she says Vil is way more capable than he'll ever be. Then she turns and leaves, leaving Sachin feeling crushed. He falls to the floor, quietly saying Vil's name again and again, each time with more anger. Suddenly, a dark energy starts to build around him, growing stronger with his fury as he growls about how Vil always takes the credit. Then, something else seems to take control, and he hurls harsh curses at Vil, filled with deep hatred. The shadowy energy swells until it fills the whole workshop. Watching from afar, the person who gave him the seal smiles cruelly, clearly pleased by what's happening. Meanwhile, Vil and Poro reached a spot high up in the mountains, and Poro asked if this was the place. Vil said yes and explained that this land was a gift from Empress Artemis. Even though he told her he didn't want any reward, she insisted he take it, saying the Empire owes him big time, 3 times over, in fact. Poro joked that since Vil now had the land, he should be called the Vilcraft de Raleigh. Vil laughed it off, saying that title was too much and that she should just stick to calling him Vil. What makes him even happier is that the land comes with a mine. Luckily, the Empress is sending folks to run the estate, so he'll have plenty of time to check out the mine and start setting up his workshop. Then Poro notices a village not far away and thinks they should head there first. When they get there, the place feels strangely empty, no people around at all, which puzzles Vil. As they wander through the quiet streets, out of nowhere, they hear a scream and see someone running straight toward them. The person running away is a frightened girl who trips and falls, a big shadow closing in on her. She's been trying to get away from a lizard-like monster chasing her. Right when the creature is about to pounce, Vil steps in and uses his ability, Almighty Air Prison, to freeze it just in time, saving the girl. With the monster trapped, Poro moves forward, ready to finish it off, saying there's no excuse for attacking a little girl. But just before she can strike, the girl begs Poro to stop, begging her not to hurt her grandfather. When Poro hears this, she stops fighting and looks over at Vil, who looks just as puzzled as she does. Then Poro tells the girl that Vil is the new lord, which totally shocks her. Out of nowhere, a bunch of lizard-like creatures come out of hiding. They drop to their knees in front of Vil, begging him to help save their village. Seeing all this, Poro is even more confused, wondering what's going on. Not long after, Vil and Poro arrive at the girl's home. Inside, she's sitting with some villagers and a strange lizard-like creature she calls her grandfather. She tells them her name is Noah, and the lizard is Seabass, the leader of the village. Vil and Poro are taken aback when they find out Seabass used to be a human. Then Noah starts unbuttoning her dress, showing a part of her back covered in scaly patches, which leaves Vil even more stunned. She tells him that a curse from the white dragon god who lives up in the mountain caused this. When Vil asks about the dragon, Noah says it's an old god that controls the wind. If someone gets caught in the dragon's wind, they get cursed. If the curse spreads all over their body, that person turns into a mindless lizard man. Hearing this, Vil looks closely at the lizard's head and spots the same mark he'd seen before, in the barrier and in Lakia's cursed eyes. When he realizes what's going on, he stands up, leaving Noah puzzled. He walks over to the lizard and breaks the air prison trapping the lizard, surprising both Noah and Poro. Then he powers up his golden hand and smashes the magic circle with a force full of destruction and healing. Almost right away, the lizard starts changing back into a human. In just a few moments, the village chief is fully back to normal. Noah, filled with relief, rushes to hug her grandfather and asks if he's okay. The village chief says he's feeling good and that the curse is gone. Noah shares that the new lord was the one who healed him, then turns to introduce Vil. But her surprise grows when she sees Poro telling everyone to line up. As they get in line, Vil uses his skill to heal each person completely. Noah and her grandfather watch in amazement, mouths wide open. Everyone agrees, they're all healed and back to normal. Vil and Poro start to walk away, saying their goodbyes. Feeling puzzled, she rushes out of the house after them and asks Vil where they're headed. He says it seems like the white dragon god is up next, and he thinks the 7 powers might have a hand in it too. Later on, Vil and Poro reach the White Dragon Mountains, where an old ruin is covered in thick, heavy mist. Poro apologizes for the hassle of setting up the barrier around it but says that without it, they probably would have ended up just like the dead bodies nearby. Putting that aside, Vil feels something's off because this thick fog doesn't seem to be where the curse is coming from. Poro, who's perched on what looks like a tree trunk while keeping watch, says the dragon god isn't around either. Then, out of nowhere, the trunk starts to move, making her fall and wonder what she was sitting on. When she takes a closer look, she sees it's actually the white dragon god, and that she'd been sitting right on its tail. But the biggest shock is that the dragon isn't white at all, it's black. The dragon started pulling fire into its mouth, its throat puffing up like a frog's as it let loose a blast of flames right at her. She was so stunned she couldn't even move. Just then, Vil stepped in, raising a barrier that stopped the fire dead. He told her this was his new and improved barrier, way better than the one he used back in the capital. Poro asked if that meant the barrier was divine or something. Before Vil could answer, the dragon charged, but no matter how hard it tried, it just slammed into the barrier and couldn't break through. Vil keeps talking, saying the barrier doesn't just block miasma, it's also flexible enough to soak up physical hits. You see this when the dragon bounces off it and gets thrown back, smashing into the ground. The hit is so hard the ground cracks, leaving Vil stunned and confused about what's going on. Then they realize the ground beneath them is hollow. Before they know it, the cracked earth gives way, and Vil, Poro, and the dragon all tumble down into the empty space below. Thanks to Vil's super flexible barrier, they touch down without a scratch. Once the barrier's gone, Vil checks on Poro, who says she's okay because he protected her. But the dragon isn't so lucky, it crashes even though it has wings. Seeing that, Vil figures the curse must be so strong it's stopping the dragon from flying at all. When Poro wonders how a dragon could end up cursed like this, Vil spots something that suddenly clicks, and everything falls into place for him. He slowly moves closer to the dragon, catching Poro off guard as she shouts after him. The dragon is surprised too, but it's too hurt to fight back. It just lets out a loud roar. Poro thinks maybe it's mad because she accidentally stepped on its tail. Vil quickly explains that the dragon isn't angry at all, it's actually in a lot of pain. Vil walked up to the dragon with respect, calling it a noble creature. He admitted he didn't know what was causing its pain but asked for its trust, promising to help it feel whole again. The dragon, reading the honesty in Vil's eyes, decided to give him a chance and bowed its head. With the dragon's permission, Vil used his golden hand power and unleashed a mighty healing technique. Almost right away, the dark energy around the dragon faded, and its body began to heal, slowly bringing back the strength it once had. In an instant, the dragon's curse is broken, and it shines bright and proud just like Vil said it would. The dragon can't believe its eyes, amazed that its scales and colors are back to normal. Phil, caught off guard, asks if all dragons can talk. After a moment, the dragon says it's actually a dragon god, which is why it can speak. Poro, hearing this, is stunned. She hadn't believed it before, especially because of the black scales, but now she knows the truth. The dragon was grateful to Vil for bringing it back to its true form but said it never caught his name. Vil then told the dragon he was a traveling blacksmith named Vil. But Poro jumped in and called him Lord Vilcraft, the new Lord of Crowley. Hearing that, the dragon looked surprised and said the Vil and he were similar in some way. Vil and Poro exchanged puzzled glances, and the dragon god went on to explain that it shared its name with the land because the old king had given it that name long ago. When Vil found out the land was named after the dragon, he quickly said sorry for stepping into its territory. But the dragon told him it wasn't a problem at all. The kingdom had disappeared a long time ago, and Vil had every right to be there. Putting that aside, Vil asked what had brought the curse on the dragon. The dragon said that after the land lost its king, it had been drifting around, lost in sadness. Then, during one of those dark days, a shadowy figure appeared and cast a curse on it. When Poro heard this, she started to think that after the curse, the mountain winds might have carried something harmful to the villagers. Worried, the dragon asked if it was causing trouble for everyone. Vil quickly told the dragon that it wasn't anyone's fault and then pointed out another magic circle right below them. The dragon was stunned and asked what it was. Vil said it was a magic circle with an illusion spell, something most people can't even see. Vil was surprised the dragon could notice it, especially since Poro couldn't. Vil goes on to say that the circle messes with people's minds, spreading its bad influence over a large area and trapping anyone caught inside. He thinks the person who cursed the dragon must be one of the 7 powers. When the dragon god hears this, it swears to destroy those 7 powers. With that, it strikes the magic circle with its claw, but the circle doesn't break. The dragon is left shocked and speechless. Vil jumps in to help, using his golden hand power again. He hits the magic circle with a powerful blast that breaks it apart and cleans it up. The circle disappears right away, and because of his special ability, he even rebuilds the castle that used to be there. When he turns around to tell the dragon it can come and go as it pleases, he's stunned to see it has changed into a girl. Surprised, he calls her Lady Crowley. She can't believe it either, that he's made a special place just for her. When Poro and Vil hear this, they wonder if a god should really be shocked by something like that. Lady Crowley, the dragon god, tells them that when gods come down from heaven, they lose a lot of their power. But if they stay inside their own sanctuary, they get all their strength back. That's why she can even change her shape now. In other words, the castle Vil fixed up has become her own celestial domain. Vil can't believe he actually made a safe place that now belongs to her. While he's admiring his work and glancing at the mark on his hand, Crowley spots it too. She immediately takes his hand to get a better look and recognizes it as the sun's mark. She's amazed because it's a super rare symbol called the Golden Hand. It shows someone who has reached the sun's power, an honor only a handful of people have ever received since the world began. Poro was just as surprised to find out how much Crowley knew. Then she remembered spotting a similar symbol in her own territory a while back. Later on, Crowley brought Vil and Poro to the spot where that symbol had shown up before. Even though it looked alike, the mark on Vil's hand was simply a golden circle, making it seem less special. But Vil was convinced it was an exact match. As Crowley talked about how this place was the late king's favorite, she moved around the sign and admitted she had no clue why it mattered so much to him. She keeps saying that no matter what she does, nothing changes. Then Vil steps closer to the circle, thinking maybe there's some kind of secret to it. When he reaches out and touches it, the circle starts glowing, matching the mark on his hand. Everyone around him gasps and calls his name, clearly worried. Vil feels the mark on his hand reacting to the circle, and he wonders if he's about to be drawn inside. Before he can think any more, everything goes completely dark. Vil wakes up and realizes he's somewhere totally unfamiliar. Right away, he wonders where he ended up. Then he hears Crowley checking if he's okay. The sudden voice surprises him, and he looks around but can't spot her anywhere. Her voice is only in his mind. Crowley tells him she's using telepathy to talk to him from far away, which blows Vil's mind. Meanwhile, Poro is really worried about whether Vil is safe. Crowley keeps talking, saying the skill helps sync up the senses. Then she asks if he's been taken to some strange city after the circle's magic surrounded him. Vil nods and agrees, thinking that must be the only reason for what's happening. When he tries to move ahead, he runs right into a wall he can't see. He also realizes that even though it looks like daytime, there's no sun shining anywhere. Crowley wonders if they're both thinking the same thing, and Vil nods again. He thinks he is probably in some kind of underground place, with the sky just a trick. To him, the circle looks like a doorway into this fake hidden city. It reminds him a lot of the Hapasai workshop his grandfather used to talk about, which also has a way of keeping people out like this. Putting that aside, he points out that even though he got in with his mark, a strong dragon like Crowley couldn't. So, he figures no one else can get in either. Crowley replies that she's glad he trusts her, but she's got her limits, and Vil agrees with that. Then he spots a floating round symbol, kind of like the one on his hand, but it feels a bit off compared to everything else around. When he reaches out and touches it, the symbol disappears right away, revealing a hidden gate that totally surprises him. Crowley was just as shocked and told him that this was a super rare and top-level dungeon called the Fall, one of the 7 hells. When Vil asked for more info, Crowley said these old secret dungeons are hidden all over the world, but the Fall was the very first one anyone had found. She explained that usually, when people go into a dungeon, they leave behind some magical energy. But since there was none here, it meant Vil was the first person to ever step inside. Curious, he walked through the gate and noticed something strange about it, like the symbol on it had been made by a craftsman from Hapasai. How had no one ever found this place before? Just then, Vil spotted a shiny ore embedded in the wall. He took a closer look and realized it wasn't adamantite or divine iron. His eyes lit up with excitement. This was a brand new kind of mineral he could use to craft fresh tools, something he definitely needed. But Crowley quickly reminded him that, from what she'd read about these dungeons, the walls were supposed to be unbreakable, meaning he'd never be able to get the ore out. Before she could finish, Vil activated his destruction skill at level 1, using decomposition, and easily smashed through the wall. Crowley was completely stunned and couldn't believe what she just saw. She asked if that move was really something a blacksmith could do. Vil looked confused and asked what she meant. Crowley explained that if his skill could smash through a dungeon wall, then one hit could wipe everything out. She wanted to know if he realized how risky that power was. But he just shrugged it off and pulled out his storage box, dropping the ore inside like it was no big deal. Crowley was even more shocked and asked how he could stay so calm and what kind of box that was. Vil jumped in, asking if she meant his storage box, and Crowley, clearly annoyed, said of course that's what she meant. Vil tells her that this new skill is actually part of his Golden Hand power. Crowley says she knows Golden Hand is one of the top-tier production abilities, but from what she understands, it shouldn't come with several different features. Vil then explains that his Golden Hand comes with 5 different skills: Almighty Refinement, Almighty Destruction, full restoration and enhancement. Crowley is surprised and asks if he's serious. Vil hints at the 5th skill but doesn't say its name. He admits he's not really a fan of it, calling it kind of something, but he trails off and shifts his attention back to finishing the dungeon map instead. Because of that, Crowley says he should go exploring first. But Phil pulls out some paper and a graphite stick and says there's no need, he's already finished the map. Crowley looks puzzled, about to ask when he did that, but before she can, Phil gently taps the paper with the graphite stick. Suddenly, a detailed map shows up, and he tells Crowley to check it out. She was totally stunned and told him not to just tell her to go check it out like that. Then she asked when he even figured out the layout of the labyrinth. Vil explained that when he hit the ore with his hammer earlier, the vibrations traveled through the ground, helping him map out the maze. Crowley was really impressed by that, saying it reminded him of how bats use sonar. Then she asked if there was anything Vil couldn't do. Vil shrugged it off, saying it was no big deal. He was just good at making things, like any blacksmith would be. Not long after, the symbol on the floor started glowing again, and Vil found his way out of the dungeon. Just as he was about to say he was back, Poro ran up and hugged him tight, tears streaming down her cheeks because she'd been so worried. Vil was puzzled and told her it wasn't a big deal since it hadn't even been an hour. But Crowley jumped in, explaining that time works differently inside the dungeon. Vil had actually been gone for 10 days. That news hit Vil hard. Feeling bad, he wanted to make it up to Poro, so he gave her a hairpin he'd made as a way to say sorry. After pinning it in her hair, he stepped back and quietly asked if she could hear him, surprising her when she realized she could. Vil tells her that the device lets him talk to her no matter where he is, even if he's stuck in a dungeon. When she hears this, she blushes a little, says his name happily, and gives him a hug. Crowley wonders if it works like telepathy, and Vil says yes, admitting he got the idea from her. She's stunned because he just made a way to communicate using a power only dragons have. She's been so surprised since meeting him that she decides to stop trying to figure everything out. With that done, Vil says he has a favor to ask. Not long after, in Laumont village where Vil had healed everyone before, people were busy fixing their broken houses and roads. The village chief was right in the middle of it, even though he kept coughing hard. His granddaughter, Noah, begged him to rest, worried he was overdoing it. But he wouldn't hear it. He was determined to get the village back on its feet as fast as possible. Just as Noah was about to say more, a voice came from above, telling them the job now belonged to someone else. Puzzled, Noah looked up and asked who it was. It was Vil, flying down on Crowley in her shining white dragon god form. Vil lands right in front of the villagers and tells Noah he's brought the white dragon god along, which surprises her and everyone else. But as soon as the villagers hear the name White Dragon God, they freak out and start running away, scared because of old stories about a curse. Crowley feels hurt watching them react like that and thinks she's only causing fear, so she gets ready to leave. Just then Vil tells her to hold on. While she hesitates, Poro steps up and tells the villagers that Vil has broken the curse. Everyone comes to a halt, and Vil steps forward, declaring that from now on, no one will ever bring trouble to this land again. He tells them the White Dragon God was hurt too and has come to say sorry. Crowley, caught off guard by the idea of an apology, turns to Vil. Vil asks if she doesn't want to make things right. Then he takes a scale from the dragon, saying it might help with that. Crowley just stares, even more confused than before. Poro looked down at the scale in his hand just as Vil headed over to the villagers. He threw the scale up into the air and activated his golden hand. With a precise strike, he hit the falling scale, and a glowing circle appeared on the ground. From there, something started to build all by itself. Slowly, a fountain began to take shape, designed to look like Crowley's dragon. When water started flowing from the fountain, shining in 7 different colors, the village chief spotted it right away. He called Noah over, and she, along with everyone else, stared in amazement at the beautiful sight. The moment the water hits them, the village chief feels a rush of energy and strength like never before. It's not just him, everyone else, including Noah, finds the water incredibly calming. Crowley, still puzzled, turns to Vil and asks what's going on. Vil explains that since her scales have natural healing abilities, he figured making a fountain from them would let the villagers enjoy those benefits forever. Just as he expected, the scales work wonders. Vil then tells everyone that this water holds the healing magic of the White Dragon, and drinking it can instantly heal any sickness or injury. He explains that the fountain is the White Dragon God's way of saying sorry and asks the villagers to accept it. They happily agree, bowing to Crowley and showing their thanks. Crowley, moved by their kindness, quietly says Vill's name and thanks him too. Just then, an owl swoops in and perches on Vill's shoulder. He thinks it's a messenger owl. Pulling out a small scroll it's carrying, he reads the urgent message. He needs to head back to the imperial capital right away because Lady Caroline, the hero, has been hurt fighting some unknown monster. The owl takes off again as Vil takes in the news. About 4 hours ago in Carter, a guard standing on the castle wall spotted a monster attacking someone and quickly shouted to warn everyone nearby. The person battling the creature was Caroline, who was heading to meet Vil. But as she reached the front of the empire, the monster showed up, and during the fight, she got badly hurt. No matter what she did, the huge octopus-like beast wouldn't budge. Then Corey told her that this creature was unlike anything they'd ever faced before, and the only way to beat it was with a special move they had to use. When Caroline hears this, she jumps up and swings her sword around her twice. Each swing makes a spinning disc appear, one in front and one behind her. The discs start vibrating fast and slowly turn into crescent moon shapes. Fixing her eyes on the monster, she carefully strikes, smashing the moons down onto it. This move is one of her favorites, called the Twin Moons Attack or the Crescent Icebreak. When the moons crash into the monster, there's a huge blast that throws dust and torn tentacles everywhere. But through the smoke, one of the monster's tentacles lashes out and hits her hard in the stomach, knocking her down. Corey shouts her name, worried, while Caroline struggles to get back on her feet and insists they have to try the move again. She's clearly hurting badly, coughing up blood, and Corey asks if she's really going to be okay. Knowing she can't keep going, Corey faces the monster and starts walking toward it. Caroline shouts, clearly confused. Corey gives a soft, sad smile and thanks her, saying how happy she's been to fight alongside her. When Caroline understands what's happening, she begs Corey to stop, but it's too late. Corey's holy swords leave her hands and join with her. Then, with all her remaining strength, Corey rushes at the monster and uses her absolute zero attack to fully take form and set the creature free. Caroline's voice was shaky as she called for Corey, but then everything changed. She opened her eyes to find herself in a hospital-like room, her injuries already tended to. Just as she started to lose strength and slump over, Vil caught her, gently telling her it was okay and she needed to rest. Seeing Vil there and thinking about what Corey had done hit her hard, and tears started falling as she leaned into him. After a little while, she managed to settle down, though the shock still lingered. Vil knew how much the holy sword meant to her. It was like family. Poro then wonders if the holy sword can be fixed. Vil explains that the Hapasai were chosen to take care of the holy swords because they're a lot like people. If their bodies get damaged, it's like they die, so they need careful upkeep. But now that the holy ice sword is totally broken, there's no way to repair it. Poro feels really sad for Corey when she hears this, and Caroline is heartbroken too, saying she never even got a chance to say goodbye. She held Corey's core gently, feeling a deep sadness that she couldn't even say thank you, and she whispered a sorry with tears in her eyes. Vil, surprised, asked if that was really Corey's core. Seeing how confused she looked, he realized she didn't understand what it was. So he told her that the core is like the heart of a holy sword, hidden inside the handle. Since the core seemed undamaged, Vil thought there might still be a chance to fix Corey. Caroline was caught off guard and asked if Vil could really fix Corey. Vil said it was possible, but warned that one small mistake would cost Corey his life, and Vil would be responsible. Stunned, Caroline stared at Corey's core, thinking it over. In the end, she chose to take the risk, convinced that life without Corey wasn't worth living. With that resolve, she held Corey's core in her hand and offered it to Vil, letting him know he should go ahead. At first, Vil wasn't sure about trying it, but seeing how determined she was, he decided to give it a shot. Still, he felt torn inside because even his grandfather had only managed simple fixes on a holy sword before. This one didn't even have its blade anymore, which made him wonder if he could really build a whole new sword from nothing. Meanwhile, Caroline held the core tightly, begging for Corey to come back. Then, without warning, the core started to glow and a magical circle appeared around it. When Vil notices what's happening, he quickly understands that the core is showing the design of the sword. Unsure of his next move, he powers up his golden hand. At the same time, he taps into 5 different crafting skills passed down from his ancestors. By combining them all, he invents a new skill called relic reforging and uses it on the core. Over at the Empire's edge, where Corey had trapped the monster in a block of ice, Lakia showed up with a group of Imperial soldiers ready for a fight. The ice didn't seem strong enough to keep the monster locked up much longer. The soldiers kept their weapons trained on the frozen beast, staying careful. Lakia stepped closer, curious about what kind of creature could be so deadly that even the ice heroine had to risk everything just to trap it. Suddenly, a piece of ice breaks apart, and one of the monster's tentacles shoots out toward Lakia. She doesn't hesitate and tells the soldiers to start shooting right away. The tentacle twists away from her and hits the soldiers instead. One of them calls out, saying the creature seems even tougher than when it fought Caroline. As soon as Lakia hears this, she jumps into action, wanting to stop it before it can escape. She strikes fast with her lightning cobra skill, hitting the monster's tentacle and making it spark with electricity. For a moment, she feels a small victory. But then, bits of the tentacle latch onto some soldiers, and suddenly they start aging really fast. Lakia quickly tells everyone to stay away from the tentacles because they suck the life out of anyone who touches them. She's puzzled why the creature won't die, and just then, it uses its loose tentacle to smash the rest of the ice around it. The soldiers start to panic, but Lakia stays calm and tells them to hang back. She says she'll take care of this with her sword skills from here on. One of the soldiers spots the move and knows it's a sacred sword technique. He warns that using it will wear down both her and the sword faster. But Lakia isn't backing down. Seeing this, the soldier realizes how serious things have gotten and tells everyone to pull back and head for the imperial capital. Meanwhile, Lakia quietly says sorry to her holy sword, Kaminari, knowing tough times are coming. Kaminari said it didn't mind at all since it had already picked her to carry it a long time ago. She wasn't quite the elegant lady it had pictured, but Kaminari admitted it enjoyed the time they spent together. Lakia gave her thanks back. Suddenly, the ice trapping the monster cracked all the way, freeing it just as it sprang forward to attack Lakia, who then took off her eye patch. She focuses her divine eye on the monster and uses a special power called Divine Time Lord's Gaze to freeze it right where it stands. With the monster stuck, she jumps up into the air and releases her whip, which sparks with fierce lightning as it wraps around her. Then she calls on her sword skill, and the sky darkens with heavy clouds while the lightning grows even stronger. Suddenly, lightning starts pouring into her, charging her up for the attack. When she sends it flying at the monster, it turns into a huge snake made of electricity, her special move called Storm Serpent Yerman. The electric snake crashes into the monster, causing a huge blast that shakes the ground, kicks up thick dust, and sends shock waves spreading all around. As the dust settles, a huge crater comes into view, and it looks like the monster is completely gone. Lakia breathes a sigh of relief, glad she got rid of it without anyone else getting hurt. But suddenly, the monster's head pops up from the crater. It had dug itself underground to dodge her strike. Things got even worse for Lakia. She had no mana left, and her holy weapon was shattered. Feeling totally helpless, she started to collapse, watching the monster rise fully from the crater. Thinking this was the end, she quietly said sorry to her broken sword and shut her eyes, ready to give up. Then out of nowhere, she heard a strong but calming bang, like a hammer hitting something. Suddenly, all her strength came rushing back. She lands on her feet without a scratch, gripping her holy weapon, the very one that had been broken but now looks brand new again. Still trying to wrap her head around what just happened, she feels someone behind her. It's Vil, who's come with Paro and Crowley. Just as the monster strikes, Crowley throws up a barrier that stops the attack right on time. The monster pulls back its tentacles, and Vil quietly wonders what purpose a weapon really serves. Thinking back to how he just fixed Corey, he realizes a weapon isn't just for defense. It's almost like it becomes a part of the person who holds it. That idea makes him furious. The monster didn't just break something important, it hurt people he cares about too. Just then, as Crowley lets down the shield, the monster attacks again. Without hesitation, Lakia jumps in front of Vil to protect him. As she charges in, she tells everyone this monster is no joke, cutting it up doesn't stop it. To prove her point, she lashes out at one of its tentacles with her whip charged with lightning. But this time, the tentacle doesn't start growing back like it usually does. She quickly figures out that Vil didn't just fix her holy weapon, he actually made it stronger. That news makes her really happy. Putting that aside, Poro and Crowley jump into the fight too. Poro chopped off one of the monster's tentacles while Crowley blasted it with fire. As Poro went to cut another, Yazora shouted a warning, saying the tentacles carry a curse that saps the strength from holy weapons. Then Crowley saw the monster's body start to shift and change, turning into something new, a creature called the Divine Lion. Lakia stood frozen in surprise as the beast suddenly lashed out, swinging all its tentacles in a wild, furious attack. There were so many of them, that Poro and the others that they had a hard time avoiding them all. Vil quickly told everyone to hang back, then used a powerful skill on himself that made his body stronger. Poro and the rest watched in surprise as Vil said he'd handle the little cub alone. Right then, the monster jumped forward to attack, but Vil easily dodged it and teased the creature, wondering if it was just blind or too slow to catch him. Poro was shocked by how quick Vil suddenly became and wanted to know what made him so fast. Before Vil could say anything, the monster struck again, but he slipped away just in time and even managed to snap the creature's claws. Then he told Poro that his incredible ability to refine things lets him change anything, even his own body. The boost only lasts a little while, but during that time, Vil becomes almost like a superhero. While Poro and Lakia admire his skills, Crowley quickly tells him to stop. She says the lion looks cursed, just like she was when Vil first saved her. That makes Vil look closer and spot a jewel stuck in the beast's forehead. He thinks that nasty gem might be the cause of the curse. The monster starts to writhe in pain, holding its head, and Crowley says it must be agony. When Vil studies the jewel, he sees it's deeply embedded in the creature's brain, and pulling it out forcefully might kill it. Lakia says it reminds her of her own right eye. Vil stares at the cursed circle etched into the jewel, noticing how twisted and strange the pattern is. Suddenly, the monster, overwhelmed by pain, lunges at him. But Vil is ready. He swings his hammer and jokes that this thing looks like it needs some fixing. With one strong hit, mixing powerful magic and force, he grows his hammer and smashes the jewel. The cursed circle breaks apart with a flash of bright light, sending a shockwave that rattles everything nearby. As dust fills the air, Crowley nervously calls out to Vil. Once the mist fades away, the creature turns out to be alive. It falls down, stunned by the curse breaking. Vil tells him the cursed jewel is gone, so she's free now. The lioness, shocked and unsure, asks how she's still breathing. Vil's surprised too when he notices she's a lioness, not a lion as he thought. He feels a wave of relief knowing she's okay. The lioness, overwhelmed with emotion, starts crying and thanks Vil deeply for saving her and ending her suffering. She thanks him and he softly pats her head, telling her it's no big deal. Then the lioness walks away, saying they'll cross paths again someday. When Lakia hears that the lioness is a female, she gets annoyed and wonders if she has to compete with her too. Vil says the lioness seems more spirited than he thought, but before he can say more, it's the curse that was controlling the lioness, and it had been hiding inside one of the soldier all along. Suddenly, it rises up from the earth, showing its real self, and wants to understand how the lioness is still alive even after the cursed jewel was destroyed. Vil notices the curse isn't hiding anymore and asks if its main body has been hiding underground this whole time, spying through the night's eye. The curse wonders how Vil knows about its tricks. Vil admits he doesn't really know much but guessed it by studying the design of a really awful item. The curse seemed to take pleasure in messing with life, so Vil said he was going to set things right and fix the messed up curse. When the curse heard this, it laughed out loud, saying it was born from the 7 most powerful cursed items and called itself Tsukumagami. It thought its journey was a grand one and told Vil not to get in the way of its plan to destroy the sacred relics. But Vil wasn't having it. He said before the curse could do anything, he'd handle it and cleanse it for good. Right then, the curse shot out these creepy, hand-shaped tendrils toward Vil, and the girl started shouting his name, clearly scared. Vil knew that if those things grabbed him, he'd be swallowed up. He couldn't fight back head-on, so he quickly used his almighty refinement to trigger a special move called Steel Spear Forest. True to its name, a bunch of sharp spears burst up from the ground, piercing the reaching hands just in time. As he wonders if his attack landed, the hands pass right through the spears but still manage to hit him, making Poro and the others even more worried. The curse sneers at Vil, calling him a fool for trying and says that gods like it can't be hurt by ordinary human weapons. Only things touched by something divine can harm it. Without hesitation, Vil jumps up, powers up his golden hand, and decides he's going to put that claim to the test. Vil reaches out to the powerful hammer Mjolnir and hurls something toward the curse. The curse, thinking it's the hammer, pulls all its many hand-like arms together into one huge limb, ready to grab and smash. But instead of the hammer, what flies through the air is a shining holy sword. The sword pierces right through the curse, causing serious harm. Surprised, the curse asks Vil how he came to have such a holy weapon. Vil says his true sacred item is his hammer, but since he has just one, he can't risk losing it. So, he made a holy sword from a strange box-like thing hovering above him. But the sword didn't last long. It started falling apart quickly and soon vanished completely. He goes on to explain that only sacred relics can hurt a god, so he used magic to make a fake one that only works for a minute. Vil winced when he realized the curse was just a trick. He confessed he didn't like using this power much, but it was his fifth skill, called Infinite Forgeries. When he activated it, a bunch of boxes popped up in the sky, the same ones he'd used to create the Holy Sword. The curse asked what those boxes were, and Vil told him they held the memories of holy swords that the Golden Hand's owner had once carried. Using those memories, he could copy any of those weapons. As long as there's mana around, he can make any kind of item appear for a little while. While he's talking, a bunch of holy weapons pop out of the boxes, all aimed right at the curse. Poro is totally surprised and asks if they're really all sacred relics. Lakia spots a few familiar ones like Aegis, Gungnir, and Excalibur. Crowley is even more amazed, saying it's like a whole museum full of sacred relics. Just as Vil gets ready to strike, the curse surprises everyone by sending more writhing tentacles up from beneath the earth, making it clear this fight isn't over yet. Poro tries to shout a warning to Vil, but it turns out Vil doesn't need it. Using sacred relics that rise from the ground, Vil cuts through the tendrils right away. The curse cries out in agony and wonders aloud if Vil was the one who made those relics hidden underground. Vil didn't answer the question. Instead, he whispered a quick sorry to the relics as they appeared for a brief moment before disappearing again. Then he hurled them all at the curse. The relics hit hard, and the curse was completely destroyed. Right before it faded away, it warned Vil that the seven powers would someday be the cause of his downfall. After the fight, Vil was catching his breath when Poro tried to hand him an apple. Caroline quickly told her to give him some space to rest. Then Lakia jumped in, telling them both to back off because she was the one who should be looking after him. After all, she was his future wife. Caroline jumps in, saying she's heard that Lakia hasn't won against Vil even once. That sets Lakia off, and she snaps that she doesn't need some old lady like Caroline keeping score. While they're bickering, Poro tries giving the apple to Vil again, but Vil says his energy is already back and suggests they split it up. Still, everyone refuses and, all at the same time, tells him to take it from them so he can get better faster. Vil can't help but laugh at how they go from arguing to moving in perfect sync like nothing happened. Someone else laughs along with him. It's Empress Artemis, who stopped by to check on him. She takes his hand kindly and suggests he should get a full health check since he's such a valuable part of the Empire. But Caroline jumps right in, questioning Artemis about calling Vil the Empire's treasure. She reminds her that Vil belongs to the Gattinurga kingdom, not the Empire, and that the Empress doesn't have the right to just claim him like that. Vil tells her that he can, because he has given him a noble title. Caroline's eyes fill with tears as she asks, hardly believing that he's really become a noble of the Empire. She says she never thought things would end up like this, but Vil soothes her worries with a soft smile. He makes a promise that no matter what, he'll always be there to look after her. Caroline was caught off guard by what he said, and when she took it the wrong way, she got so embarrassed her face flushed bright red and she looked like steam was coming out of her ears. Without a word, she rushed out of the room, saying she needed some fresh air to calm down. Watching her storm off, Vil looked around at everyone else and wondered if she was really that thrilled about him agreeing to take care of her sword. But no one said a thing. They were all too stunned by how clueless he was. Putting that aside, Artemis makes it clear she can never thank him enough for saving her empire from a disaster like nothing they've ever seen. She goes on to call him the greatest hero the Empire has ever known. But Vil thinks calling him a hero is a bit much. Lakia doesn't agree. She feels even that title isn't enough. If he hadn't shown up right when he did, the Empire would have been lost for sure, especially since Tsukamagami, that cursed creature, has powers way beyond anything they've dealt with before. The Empress shows her thanks by nodding her head a little, while Lakia goes all out with a deep bow. Seeing how genuine they are, Vil accepts their thanks but turns down the hero title. He says what he did wasn't anything extraordinary. He thinks he just got lucky beating the Tsukamagami because his skills happened to be enough to fight off the curse. He feels it was really his sacred relic that made the difference since he basically just swung it around. The girls started laughing softly, noticing just how modest he was, and Poro added that he really was a strange kind of guy. Meanwhile, over in the kingdom of Gattinurga, Cyril got kicked out of a shop called the Comet Emporium. But she didn't walk away. Instead, she pounded on the door, crying out for help. With tears running down her face, she begged them to visit her place, the Hassan Trading Company, because she had no one else to turn to. Out of nowhere, the shop owner swings the door open and presses a newspaper right in her face. The big headline screams that Hassan Trading Company is on the verge of going bankrupt. The shopkeeper doesn't hold back, saying a business built on lies like hers deserves to fail. Then she slams the door shut and tells her to get lost immediately. Cyril feels crushed by the rejection. Now, there's no blacksmith left to work for her company and no customers left to buy anything. With no way left to save her company, she breaks down in tears and decides to seek out Vil. Meanwhile, in the busy capital of Gattinurga, Suchin shows up dragging a big sack and clutching the fake seal. He looks dirty and smells bad, with flies buzzing around him, making people hurry past while holding their noses. The fake seal in his hand glows with a strange, dark energy. He starts laughing quietly to himself, noting that there are plenty of people around to deal with. He dropped the sack on the ground and called out, urging everyone to come see what he had made. He claimed his creations were so amazing, they were worth risking your life for. A few adventurers nearby started thinking maybe they should check it out. Catching their chatter, Suchin began untying the sack, saying they were lucky today. When he opened it, a bunch of sharp, impressive weapons were inside, and he invited them to admire the fine work he'd done. The adventurers couldn't believe their eyes, and one of them even spotted a few familiar names among the weapons: Excalibur, Aegis, Gabul, and Levitine. Then Suchin said that each of these legendary pieces was up for grabs at just 1,000 gold each. One of the adventurers picked up what looked like Excalibur and was amazed at how cheap it seemed. But in reality, all those weapons were nothing but worthless fakes that Suchin had crafted using a fake seal. He quietly laughs at the adventurers, thinking they're nothing but fools. Determined to prove to Cyril just how insanely wealthy he's going to get for both of them, Suchin's thoughts stir the fake seal, making it glow with an even darker energy. At that moment, a mage steps forward, ready to try out some magic on the sword by summoning an icicle. He knows his magic skills are still pretty basic, but he figures it should be enough for the test. The adventurer lifted the sword, prepared to swing, and Suchin cheered him on. The blade cut through the ice like it was nothing, leaving the adventurer wide-eyed. Suchin was just as shocked and let out a nervous laugh, surprised the weapon worked that well. Calling it the magic of legendary swords, Suchin quickly attracted a bunch of excited adventurers, all eager to get their hands on one. Just as the adventurer was about to show everyone something, he suddenly told them to hold on. Before he could say anything else, Suchin jumped in and asked if he wanted to buy that Excalibur, offering it for just 1,000 gold. But the adventurer quickly said no way. He wouldn't spend even 1 gold coin on a fake like that. The mage then pointed out that although the sword sliced through the icicle easily, it got chipped after just 1 hit. When the others heard this, they started to wonder if the weapons were really fake. Suchin said it was normal for a sword to get chipped, but one of the adventurers didn't buy it. He said a real legendary sword should feel powerful as soon as you pick it up. This one just felt like worthless junk. To show everyone, he slammed the sword down hard, and it broke apart like glass, revealing that Suchin had been tricking them all along. Still, Suchin says they can't blame him because, in his eyes, they aren't true smiths. So, he thinks they have no right to say the weapons are fake. He's clearly losing it, holding his head and refusing to believe the truth. He insists the weapons can't be fake since he's the lead blacksmith at the Hassan company. He's so caught up in his own pride that he even claims his skills are something the gods would be jealous of. The adventurers couldn't believe it when they found out he was part of the Hassan company, the very same one they'd seen in the news for going bankrupt. After seeing how shady their business really was, they all agreed to never deal with Hassan again. They started accusing him of lying and cheating, but Suchin wouldn't stand for it. He shook with anger, shouting that none of it was true. As he got more worked up, the fake seal on him started to glow, sending out an even darker, more ominous energy. Fed up with being humiliated, he shouts that his talent can't be denied and holds up the fake seal, sending a puff of dust into the air. Right then, Cyril shows up, furious, and asks what Suchin thinks he's doing, calling him a total idiot. Annoyed, Suchin snaps back that he's just trying to save her company. Cyril tells him to stop wasting time because there's only one way to fix this mess. She held up a newspaper with a big headline, saying Vil had saved the empire and become a famous hero. Then she told him they should go find Vil right away and say sorry together. But before she could say more, Suchin suddenly kicked her in the stomach. She fell back, hurting badly, and asked in shock what he was doing, reminding him she was pregnant with his child. Suchin ignored her and kept saying Vil's name over and over, telling her to just be quiet. He hated even hearing that name and wished Vil would disappear forever. Cyril, holding her stomach in pain, asked Suchin what was wrong with him and how he could say such awful things. Suchin shot back that he'd rather die than say sorry to Vil. He didn't buy the newspaper story about Vil being a hero and called it complete rubbish. He grabbed Cyril by the shoulders, looking annoyed, and asked why she was complaining when he was right there. Without missing a beat, Sirikul slapped him across the face. As she stood up, she called him a disappointment. Then, she told him the real reason she was upset. It was because he had no talent at all. At that moment, Sachin felt like his father and grandfather were watching him, their faces full of deep disappointment. He's so stunned that he just stands there, completely frozen and speechless. Watching him like that, Sirikul feels totally let down. Realizing there's nothing she can do, she starts to walk away. Sachin calls out, begging her to wait and asking if she's really going to leave him behind. She pauses halfway and tells him he can stay if he wants, but she's going on to say sorry to Vil by herself. She turned and walked off, leaving Sachin yelling her name in frustration. His anger grew, and he started pounding the ground with his fists, yelling about how no one cares about anything but talent and skill. Each time he hit the ground where the fake seal was, it started to blend into his hand, sending out a darker and darker energy. Seeing this, a nearby adventurer decided it was best to get the guards involved. Sachin's hand finally blends completely with the fake seal. Now, he's set on bringing Vil over because he wants to steal Vil's skills and talents for himself. Not long after, Sirikul boards a train heading to the Empire, planning to meet Vil and say sorry. She sits in a compartment with a hooded man nearby, and across from her, a mother is trying to calm her crying child. The little one is upset because their doll is broken. The head is totally off. The mother looks worried since she doesn't have any sewing stuff to fix it. Meanwhile, Sirikul thinks about how she'll apologize to Vil. Right then, the man with the hood held out his hand and said there was no need for sewing tools. When he touched the doll, a glowing circle appeared, just like the one Vil had. Sirikul saw the mark and recognized it immediately. Then, the man pulled his hand away, and the doll looked brand new again. The little girl's eyes lit up, and she asked if he was a magician. He said no, so she wondered if he made toys. He smiled and said it was kind of like that. The mother thanked him warmly, and he just shrugged it off, saying it was nothing. He glanced over at Sirikul and said he's the kind of guy who can't just walk past someone who needs help. Then Sirikul asked if he was a famous blacksmith because she recognized the mark on his hand. It looked like the golden hand symbol. The man lifted his hand to show her, asking if that was what she meant. Sirikul nodded, thinking it looked a lot like Vil's mark. She remembered that Vil's right hand had that same sign and held a special power, which made her wonder if this man had it too. Feeling a bit awkward, she quickly apologized for the sudden question, gave a small bow, and asked if he might want to join her trading company. When she asked, the man said he'd heard that the Hassan Trading Company was going through a really rough patch. Sirikul was taken aback and wondered how this stranger even knew her company name. While she tried to make sense of it, he went on to say he wasn't planning to join any group because he was busy working on something of his own. That made Sirikul think he reminded her a lot of Vil. She quickly apologized, saying she couldn't help but ask, maybe because her pregnancy was making her a bit scatterbrained. When the man heard that, he smiled and said that was actually a great thing, because out of all the things people create, children are the most amazing. Sirikul thought the man's words sounded a little strange and repeated the word creation. The man then pulled something out and handed it to her. It was a piece of candy he hoped would cheer her up. She didn't really want candy, but she didn't want to say no either. So, feeling a bit awkward, she thanked him. He smiled gently, the smile showing mostly in the wrinkles around his eyes, and Sirikul felt a little push to accept it. The man seemed to expect her to eat it right away, so she popped it into her mouth. As soon as it touched her tongue, the candy tasted so amazing it felt like she was standing in a field full of flowers. The sudden rush of happiness took her by surprise, and she wondered what kind of magic this candy held. Still feeling woozy from the candy, Sirikul barely notices when the man stands up and says he's getting off here. The woman looks puzzled and tells him the train won't stop until it reaches the imperial capital. He just smiles and says it's fine, thanking her for caring. Before he steps away, he turns to the little girl and asks her to look after the doll. Then he walks off, leaving the woman and her child to wave goodbye. Meanwhile, Sirikul stays lost in a daze, not quite back to herself yet. The woman was saying how nice he seemed when suddenly the whole train shook hard, throwing them forward. Something had gone wrong. The steam engine's boiler blew up, making the front of the train slam to a harsh stop. The carts behind didn't slow down and smashed into each other, piling up in a terrible crash. Everything turned into chaos. People scrambled to get out, but it was no use. The carts crumpled around them before anyone could do anything. Up in the air, another hooded figure hovers, laughing as he watches everything fall apart below. With a wicked grin, he calls this disaster one of the tragedies caused by the Seven Powers. Not long after he leaves, Crowley shows up at the crash site, carrying Vil and Poro on her back. He's shocked and heartbroken to see so many bodies scattered among the wreckage, struggling to take in the terrible scene. Spotting a few survivors, Poro wonders if they're hoping for help to come from the Empire. Crowley then says they should take the injured back to the Empire on their own. But Vil has a different idea. Crowley warns him that if they don't act fast, more people will die. Realizing time is running out, Vil decides to wrap things up quickly and uses his golden hand power. As he starts to carefully examine the wreckage, he spots lots of magical circles spread all over the place, just like the ones he's been encountering these past few days. Putting that aside, he starts looking over the people hurt by the effects of those magical circles. He spots a pregnant woman who's injured, someone with a burst organ inside, another person whose heart has stopped, and someone else bleeding inside their brain. After checking everyone else on board, he understands exactly what's wrong with each of them. Then he moves on to the last step and releases a full healing wave, and suddenly, everything starts to lift up and float. As the healing spreads, not just the train but the people start to feel better, their injuries closing up. Suddenly, everything snaps back to how it was before. The train looks brand new, like nothing ever went wrong. Poro is amazed and gives Vil a big hug, thanking him for fixing everything so quickly. Vil is surprised too, wondering if he just leveled up. But really, he thinks keeping everyone safe is way better than any kind of level boost. Out of nowhere, he hears someone shouting his name. Looking down, he spots a face he knows well. His ex-fiancée, Cyril, the one who betrayed him with his own brother. She drops to her knees, begging for forgiveness over and over. Tears start streaming down her face just as the dragon starts coming in for a landing. But before it touches down, Vil leaps off and walks over to her, telling her to get back on her feet. When she looks up after hearing his voice, Vil tells her that everyone will have a full checkup at the Imperial Capital Hospital. But because she's pregnant, he'll take her there first. Seeing how kind he is, especially compared to his brother who had actually kicked her in the belly, Cyril suddenly understands she was completely wrong about him. With tears in her eyes, she walks over to Vil, admits she made a mistake, and then falls to the ground, still saying sorry. Vil gets really worried watching her like that. After quickly loading as many women and kids onto Crowley as she could hold, he told her to head straight to the capital. Then, he let the others know they'd have to hang tight until the rescue team showed up. As Crowley took off, Vil nervously watched her leave, still holding the injured. Once that was done, he turned his focus to the train and noticed something was weird. He had used his restoration power, which should have fixed everything perfectly, but something just didn't feel right. The train tracks and everything around them looked fine, so there really shouldn't have been any accident at all. When Poro hears this, she thinks maybe someone planned the whole thing on purpose. Vil nods, saying that kind of trick could definitely be pulled off with magic. Right then he spots a strange dark energy coming from one of the train carts. Without answering Poro's question about what's going on, he heads straight into that cart and finds it swallowed up in darkness. Poro didn't react at all, so Vil asked if she couldn't see the dark aura. She said she didn't see anything like that. From her point of view, there was no dark aura at all. This left Vil puzzled. Was he the only one who could actually see it spreading out? As he stepped off the train, he followed the trail and noticed it was coming from something on top of Crowley. Zooming in with his analyzing skill, he realized the dark aura was coming from a doll that a child was carrying. A sinking feeling hits him hard. Crowley has gone far ahead, so without wasting time, he tells Poro they're heading straight back to the Imperial capital. As they travel, Vil starts to worry it'll be too late when they get there. So, he grabs a teleportation crystal and zaps them right outside the Imperial hospital. The moment they arrive, he senses a dark, heavy energy coming from the building. Clearly, they got there before them. Putting that aside, he notices that Poro is still clinging to him, seeming to enjoy the hug. He gently calls her name, and she finally lets go, saying the teleportation crystal worked so fast she didn't even notice they'd arrived. Not paying much attention to that, he hurries into the hospital and tells Poro to come right after him. Inside, he finds the place shrouded in darkness. As he watches, he notices that no one inside seems to notice the dark feeling around them. It's not just Poro, everyone in the hospital seems blind to it. Chasing after Poro up the stairs, Cyril spots the shadowy trail. It leads straight to a room, and Vil guesses whatever is causing it is inside. When he pushes the door open, the darkness is so thick he can hardly make out what's inside. When they walk in, they spot a woman and her child surrounded by a dark, heavy feeling. It's the same mother and kid Vil helped after the accident, but now the mother isn't responding at all, and something feels off about the child too. The kid wonders why her mom has stopped moving. Poro rushes over to check on the child, but Vil tells her to hold back. When she pauses, he points out the strange thing the child is holding in her hand. When Poro hears this, he spots the doll. But it's not just any doll. It suddenly turns to face them with a creepy grin and gives off the same dark vibe. Surprised, Poro asks if it's really just a doll. Vil explains that it's a cursed object, kind of like the one with the lion god. He steps closer to the girl and gently asks if she can let him hold the doll for a bit, but she quickly says no. Vil tries to calm her down, telling her it's okay because he's a doll doctor. At that, the girl wonders if he's like someone she met before, which leaves Vil puzzled, trying to figure out who she means. Putting that question aside, he talks to the doll, noticing it seems to be in pain and promising to make it better. The girl offers the doll to him, trusting him to help. As he gets ready to fix it, he feels angry that anyone would spoil a child's beloved toy with a curse. Suddenly, the doll reacts, showing a glowing magic circle. Without hesitation, Vil hits it with powerful magic, destroying, healing, and purifying all at once. The magic circle breaks apart, and the curse is lifted from the doll. With the reconstruction complete, the doll looked more stunning than ever. The child's mother, who had been unconscious like she was in a deep sleep, suddenly took a sharp breath and sat up. The child rushed over and hugged her tightly, while the mother looked around, confused about what was going on. Then Vil stepped forward, explaining that the doll was a special one that brings good luck to everyone nearby. Poro couldn't believe how gorgeous the doll had turned out. Its hair was shining like it was glowing. The girl turned to her mother and said that a nice big brother had fixed her doll. Vil asked if anyone had been messing with the doll before. The woman explained that on the train, when the doll's head fell off, a man had helped fix it. The little girl said he was a kind big brother with his face covered in cloth. When Vil heard this, he thought the man might be one of the 7 powers and thanked the girl for telling him about it. The woman nodded and said they were the ones who should be grateful to him. Vil won't accept the praise, insisting that the doll is the reason she got better. Then, out of nowhere, the doll talks back, saying it's not her doing at all. It's all thanks to him, the doll doctor. The mother is stunned, and the child looks even happier that the doll has actually spoken. Poro and Vil are caught off guard too. The doll asks Vil why he's acting so weird when he's the one who made her. Then she bows gracefully, which leaves Poro amazed. She tells Vil he really did bring a doll to life. Vil couldn't believe he actually pulled it off. He kept saying all he did was flip a curse into something good. Just then, someone was quietly watching from the doorway. It was Cyril, who had been sneaking a look the whole time. Seeing what Vil did, and remembering how he brought people back after the train crash, Cyril started to think Vil's powers were almost like a god's. Right at that moment, a boy yells to his mom, excited because his legs, which were hurt before, are now better and he can walk again. Someone else shouts that their chest pain has disappeared, and another person happily says they can see clearly once more. On top of that, a patient who was told they had only 3 months to live is now well enough to go home. The hospital doctor was so amazed by what he saw that he actually wondered if some kind of god had come down to visit. But only Cyril knew what was really going on. This was all because of the doll Vil had made, and she thought he was incredible for it. Suddenly, she snapped out of her thoughts, realizing what she truly wanted, to bring Vil back. Without wasting any time, she made up her mind to take action right away. Meanwhile, Vil and Poro were busy admiring how adorable the doll looked when Cyril walked into the room and called out to Vil. Her eyes filled with tears as she told him she had been searching everywhere because there was something important she needed to say. As she talks, Poro shoots her a sharp look, clearly not happy. Vil stands up and quickly says sorry, explaining he's swamped right now. Cyril jumps in, apologizing for pushing him away earlier, and shares that ever since Vil left, the Hassan Trading Company's sales have dropped a lot. Turns out Suchin's skills didn't help at all. She can't stand seeing the business they built together falling apart like this. But she's sure that if Vil comes back, the customers will start coming again. Without hesitating, she begs him to come back to her. Vil turns away and says no without a second thought. She's surprised by how sharp he is and wonders if he's really mad at her. Looking worried, she suggests maybe he's upset because she hurt him. Before she can say more, Poro suddenly moves in front of her, making her step back. She yells at her, calling her stubborn and telling her to quit causing trouble. She asks how the Cyril could still want Vil to come back after being betrayed. Standing up, Cyril says this isn't her problem. She wrongly thinks Poro works for a competing company trying to steal Vil away and vows she won't let it happen. Poro then explains she's someone Vil once saved and feels she knows him better than anyone else. That makes Cyril shout, accusing Vil of cheating with Poro and calling it a betrayal. Poro fires back, saying Cyril is the one who betrayed him, which leaves Cyril speechless. Poro tells her to go, saying Vil has an important task and can't waste time on her. Vil won't even glance her way, and Cyril falls to her knees. She starts banging her head on the floor, saying sorry and that she can't do anything else. She pleads with Vil to come back and asks if he's really okay with the Hassan company falling apart. Vil answers coldly that it's already too late. Cyril stops moving, stunned. Then Vil points out that she was the one who said the company belonged to her alone. She went as far as to claim that the company's success was all her doing, and he had nothing to do with it. If that's how she sees it, then it's on her to deal with whatever trouble comes up now. Just like he said when he walked away, this whole thing isn't his problem anymore. Feeling totally lost, she starts wondering why she ever made such a stupid choice. Her hands shake as she says sorry to Vil, Sachin, and her baby, knowing deep down it's too late to fix anything. Out of nowhere, her stomach swells up huge, like a balloon, doubling in size and catching everyone off guard. She keeps saying it hurts, over and over. At the same time, Vil spots that dark aura again, glowing around Cyril's body. Worried, he asks if she met that hooded guy. Even though she's barely awake, Cyril manages to say he gave her a tasty candy. That's when Vil knows for sure it's the same man causing all this trouble. Right on her belly, a dark magic circle showed up, glowing and swirling until it turned into a portal. As the portal took shape, something started coming through. When its head popped into view, it was clear it was a huge baby monster that looked like a frog, probably Cyril's kid, but changed by the cursed candy. The creature wriggled out completely, crawled over to Vil, and then suddenly jumped at them. Luckily, Vil and Poro dodged just in time while holding the mother and daughter, making the monster baby tumble to the ground. Once they're safely down, Vil tells the mother to take her daughter somewhere safe. At the same time, she warns everyone else in the hospital about the monster and tells them to get help from the adventurers right away. That leaves only 3 people left in the room with the monster baby. When Cyril wakes up, she's confused to find a baby there, wondering how she could have had a baby before the time was right. Then the baby looks at her and starts crawling over, calling her mama. But when it reaches out with its strange, frog-like hand, she quickly pushes it away and yells that it's a monster. The baby looks stunned by her reaction. The baby's mother pushes it away, and it starts screaming so loud that the noise feels like waves hitting the room. The 3 of them grab their ears, trying to block it out. The sound is so strong it breaks things all around them, and Vil starts thinking maybe the kid is messing with sound magic. But since there's no sign of any spells or magic circles, Vil figures the baby must have some kind of crazy powerful magic inside. When Poro asks what he means, Vil says the curse from that hooded man might be making the kid's magic go wild and out of control. When Cyril hears this, she figures out that the candy she ate is what's causing the trouble. The monster baby keeps crying, and Vil speaks up, telling her that even if the parents are awful, the kid is innocent. He reminds her that she's the only mom this little one has. His words touch her, and she looks at the baby again. Watching it cry, she realizes that the baby isn't at fault at all. She starts moving slowly toward the little creature, whispering gently as she reaches out and takes its tiny hand. Then she rests her forehead against the baby's, quietly saying sorry. Even though she gave this baby life, she admits she turned away from it. The baby, a strange little monster, stops crying and hugs her tight, calling her mama. Vil and Poro let out a breath they'd been holding, feeling relieved. Suddenly, a group of adventurers storms into the room, shouting that the child is a monster. Before Vil can stop them, they launch a fierce attack, throwing fire, wind, and lightning at the baby. But Cyril jumps in front of the child, using her body as a shield and taking the full hit.